Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Lord, married to a countess at the beginning. Chapter 61. The smile on Bill's face suddenly froze. Then before he could speak again, Taya had already pressed him to the ground and blocked Bill's mouth with a piece of cloth he got from someone who didn't know where. Taya didn't dare to let this human speak. This guy is actually Gray's teacher. Impossible, absolutely impossible. He knows Gray's strength very well. This guy is not even worthy of carrying Gray's shoes. He doesn't want to be Gray's teacher. Not even the Enlightenment teacher. Taya hates this kind of person the most. Soon, Taya's team members also knocked down the remaining people, and began to beat these people in the street. The humans and orcs around looked frightened. Humans and orcs who didn't know the truth were passing by. They felt numb when they saw this scene, and then they stayed away. Soon, Bill and his party were thrown out of the city, and their tickets were withdrawn. They could not enter the city and had to return to Kylan City. Gray, just wait for me. The middle-aged man got up with a bruised nose and a swollen face. The clothes on his body were covered with footprints, and he looked miserable. The same goes for everyone else. Bill was the worst. He was taken care of alone by Taya. Every punch from Taya was stuck at the limit. Bill would be unable to bear any more force. The result was that Bill, the person who should be the most resistant to beatings, could not even stand up. Only a few ordinary people could take turns carrying him away. After these people left, Gray evacuated the crowd and asked Taya to continue patrolling. Taya had no choice. It was still some time before he got off work, so he could only let Chuyi and Jianya continue to wait for him. However, Gray said at this time that Chuya and Janya would be taken care of by him so that Tia could patrol with peace of mind. When he got off work, he would leave the two siblings in Tia's hands. Taya looked at his two younger brothers and sisters, and then at Gray. He always felt that Gray was a little too enthusiastic about his family. But he wasn't so sure. He thought about it and felt that it was too boring to keep his brothers and sisters waiting for him. Taya finally agreed to Gray. Gray took his siblings and started shopping in the business district. Although many large shops here are not open yet. However, some small shops and roadside stalls are open. These are usually small traders. They don't have much to prepare and they have already started doing business in the past few days. Of course, apart from some small vendors, the most attractive thing is some special food stalls and some restaurants. This is all Gray's property. Anyway, the shops were empty. For the unsold shops, Gray picked some in good locations and started catering. This industry is extremely profitable. Living things have an instinctive need to eat. This demand is constant. Nowadays, the flow of people in Gray's city is getting bigger and bigger day by day. With so many people, they have to eat and drink, right? Gray didn't believe all of them, so he prepared dry food to eat in the city. Especially those businessmen. Businessmen are a very special profession. They can endure hardships but are also willing to enjoy blessings. If they are in the wild, they can squat on the ground and eat dry food like ordinary workers, but once they have the conditions for enjoyment, businessmen will never be stingy with themselves. Especially after Gray carefully cultivated a group of gourmet chefs. He didn't believe that people in this world could resist the taste of those things. For example, fried chicken is very easy to make and has a fragrant aroma. Not to mention the people in this world, it is the people who grew up eating delicious food in previous lives, after occasionally smelling the aroma of fried chicken. Won't you also be so greedy that your mouth will water? I don't know why, but the fried chicken is so delicious. It would be even better if paired with some secret sauce. If paired with some soda. Tisk, even Gray may not be able to resist this temptation. Therefore, the two siblings Chuya and Janya did not block it. In fact, the two siblings have eaten this kind of food called fried chicken in the past few days. Taya brought them to them when he came home occasionally. However, the wolf tribe is relatively far from the city, so it takes a long time to walk and ride a horse for a while. When we arrived at the tribe, the steaming hot fried chicken was already cold as it had just come out of the pan. Even if the fried chicken is cold, it is still the delicacy in the eyes of the two siblings. Now, under Gray's invitation, they had a warm meal. The crispy skin and juicy chicken immediately made them feel the true taste of fried chicken. How's it going? Doesn't it taste good? Gray was drinking a glass of juice. At this moment, Gray took the sister and brother to a place called Mutton Hot Pot and sat down. The private room that Gray wanted was away from the noisy environment outside the Ministry of Education. It's delicious, thank you for your hospitality. Chuya wiped her red lips. The oil stains from the fried chicken made her red lips look particularly attractive. The two siblings are worthy of being members of the Wolf clan, and they eat so fast that even Gray can't beat them. They bought fried chicken from the street corner and walked less than 100 meters before entering this Mutton Hot Pot restaurant. Not long after they entered, they finished 2 kilograms of fried chicken, 2 kilograms per person. This was a super large portion that Gray specially bought for them. You're welcome. Taya and I are considered friends. We should entertain you. You should still be able to eat, right? I've seen Sha eat, and 2 pounds of fried chicken can't feed her enough. Gray took out the menu with a smile, then skipped the vegetarian dishes and looked at the meat dishes. In addition to mutton, there is also beef here. In addition to meat slices, there are also meatballs. Gray estimated that the two siblings would have a lot to eat, so he ordered 20 plates of mutton, 20 plates of beef, 10 plates of meatballs, and 1 grilled lamb chop per person. A serving of roasted lamb chops weighs 2 kilograms. Ordinary people may not be able to cook hot pot after eating a roasted lamb chop. But those here are not ordinary people. After ordering, Gray handed the menu to the confused waitress. The girl knows Gray, and most of the residents here now know the Lord. What confused the girl was the number of dishes Gray ordered. The hot pot in this world was just invented by Gray. But now the hot pot restaurants in the city are almost full. Obviously this kind of delicacy has conquered the hearts of many people. He is going to let Anna start opening hot pot restaurants throughout the field. It is crucial to strive to radiate out as quickly as possible, and to bind hot pot, fried chicken and other delicacies spread from Gray to field to form a brand effect. When this large-scale trade fair is over, there will be a hot pot wave in the entire field territory. Probably because in my previous life, I was disgusted by the practice of many hot pot restaurants that had a layer of meat on top and ice underneath. Therefore, Gray requires that each hot pot restaurant's portion of meat must be a solid plate, at least 1 pound. Of course, if there is a lot of meat, the price will naturally be high. But the value for money is not unacceptable. What Gray ordered was basically 40 pounds of meat and some meatballs. If it's not enough, add more. Stop standing there stupidly. You read that right. I want this much. Hurry up and bring the pot and the bowls and chopsticks. After Gray finished speaking, he stood up and took Chuya and Fang out to prepare the dipping sauce. When talking about mutton hot pot, sesame sauce must be the first thing that comes to mind. Gray taught the two of them how to prepare sesame sauce, and then asked them to make a hot pot dipping sauce based on chili oil, adding some beef sauce, sesame oil, minced garlic, chopped green onion, etc. 2 kinds of dipping sauces, each has its own advantages. Soon the hot pot was boiling, and the mutton and raw meat were served one after another. The box was soon filled with plates and meat everywhere. Chuya and Jianya swallowed their saliva as they watched. Hot pot is a food that is very easy to get started with. Look, it's like this. Gray gave a demonstration, and the two siblings learned it. The first time they ate hot pot, Chuya and Jianya were extremely careful. It wasn't until the first bite of mutton wrapped in sesame sauce entered their mouths that the expressions of the two siblings suddenly changed. The two of them said in unison, "It smells so good. It's so delicious." Gray smiled. If it tastes good, eat more. He didn't have dinner today either, so he happened to be eating with the two siblings. The three of us finished the 40 plates of meat very quickly, and with the meatballs at the back, the three of us almost felt full after eating. Gray ate less, mostly Akiba and the Fang siblings. After the two of them stopped and rested on their chairs, Gray brought drinks to the witness. The three of them were drinking and chatting in the box. Now Chuya and Jianya are completely controlled by Gray. Whatever Gray asked, they said. Including that they have no parents at home, only 3 brothers and sisters. So, Taya rarely goes back to the tribe now, and there are not many people in your family. Do you want to move to my place? Gray said this with a smile. The two siblings looked at each other, and both of them were actually moved. The eldest brother Taya basically lives here now. The two siblings will indeed be a little lonely in the tribe. And now that they have seen the prosperity and fun here in Gray, as well as so many delicious food, of course they will be moved. However, the two did not agree immediately. No matter how excited they are, they still need to consider the actual situation. How can we live without a house or a job? Do you just rely on your elder brother's work? The eldest brother's job is temporary. When this business activity is over, the eldest brother will go back. Thinking of this, both of them looked sad. What kind of person is Gray? He can see the thoughts of the two siblings at a glance. He suddenly showed a smile. He is not afraid that you have many ideas, but that you have no ideas. He coughed softly. That's right, I have seen Tai Ya's efforts during this period, and you have also seen it. The city here is very big and there are many people. Talents like Tai Ya are in urgent need. I have also seen it before. After asking him what he thought, he rejected my offer to stay because you two need his care in the tribe. Gray's words quickly attracted the attention of the two siblings. When they heard that Tai Ya gave up such a good job for them, both of them turned pale. Here in Gray, there are many more prospects than back in the tribe. But before they could say anything, Gray continued, I have been thinking about it for a few days and feel that a talent like Tai Ya should not be in the tribe, but should be able to display his talents here with me. So I would like to ask you two for help. As long as you ask, he will definitely stay, and you don't have to worry about life problems. In addition to Tai Ya's job, I also want to hire Miss Akiba. Chuya, who was drinking juice and thinking about how to persuade Tai Ya to stay, was stunned when he heard his name. Master Gray, you don't have to be so polite, just call me Chuya. Chuya spoke subconsciously. Gray smiled. Miss Chuya, I'm not being polite, I want to show respect to you as an employer. Chuya's face turned red when she heard this, and then she sat upright and looked at Gray. Gray, it's like this, Miss Akiba, now that the city is slowly getting back on track, my life needs to get back on track too. I need some maids to help take care of the house, pack things, wash and cook, etc. But when I came, I didn't bring a maid with me, so I need to recruit some maids to work for me. When Gray came, he thought that it would be more difficult to expand the territory, so there would be no trouble for the maids in the field territory. As soon as they heard Gray's words, Chuya and Fang's expressions changed. However, the expressions of the two people changed differently. Autumn leaves are a surprise. Fang's are rage. Before Chuya could speak, Janya slapped the table and stood up. No. My sister is not a servant. Chuya was startled by his brother's sudden move, and then he pulled his brother back to his seat. Gray took a sip of juice, and then said calmly, although being a maid is tiring, I also pay extremely high wages. In addition, I know that the physique of orcs is far superior to that of ordinary people. In fact, a normal maid's workload in a day will not be too much. With Miss Akiba's physique, it will be very easy, so I don't actually want Miss Yi to do it. An ordinary maid. I want Miss Akiba to be my battle maid. Chuya was obviously stunned for a moment. Do you mean to let me fight? Gray shook his head. No, under normal circumstances, you are a maid and do not need to fight, but if there are enemies or assassins approaching, you still need to take action. A combat maid is like shouldering the functions of a maid and a guard at the same time, so I will give high amount of remuneration. After Gray finished speaking, he stood up and said without waiting for the two to reply, I have said everything I should say, battle maid. Of course, this is not just Miss Akiba, you are the only one. I will choose some suitable ones from many orcs, and if you want to be my battle maid, you don't need any other conditions, such as being loyal to me. I'm very satisfied with Miss Akiba, but if you can't meet this requirement, it won't work. Okay, that's it. If you don't want to, I won't force you. After saying that, Gray took the two of them to visit the night market. After Tai Ya got off work, Gray handed the two of them over to Tai Ya and returned to his small manor. Because there is so much waste to be done now, Gray naturally has no requirement to build his residence as high and grand as the 4- or 5-story castle of the Field family, which is terrifyingly large. He only asked that he be able to live and barely hold up the scene. That was enough. So the workers built him a 2-story manor with a fairly small area and a garden front yard. As soon as Gray entered the door, he saw the exhausted magician lady. Mia, thank you for your hard work. Gray smiled and poured himself a cup of black tea, then sat across from Mia. How is the progress of the magic circle? Gray started asking about work status in the next sentence. Mia glanced at Gray with some resentment. Is there such a thing as a magician? She was the only one working on the magic circle in such a big city. There was no one else to help her at all. She was so busy these days that she could hardly tell the difference between east, west and north. She was so tired that Gray was not polite to her at all and sent her away with a few pieces of candy. Today she has to ask for a salary increase no matter what. It's impossible to rest. After all, these 2 days are very important for Gray, and she can't let her guard down. Mia's tired voice was a little low. It's almost done. The magic circle can be completely closed tomorrow. At least it can ensure that the city will not be destroyed by intermediate magicians. But if you want a more advanced magic circle, you'll have to find someone more powerful. Quote, in addition, I ask you to give me the due remuneration for my labor. Otherwise, I will go to the Earl to complain. Mia brewed her emotions for a while before summoning the courage to help Gray. Gray couldn't help but raise his lips when he heard this. Although he had seen many beautiful women, only this magician lady was the most comfortable to bully. She will work hard no matter what she is asked to do, but if she is given 2 candies, she will be fooled until she loses her ability. Now that the work is almost done, I think about raising wages. He also threatened him with his wife. Gray felt that even if she went to find Anna, Anna would not blame Gray for this. Gray smiled and hit Mia. Don't you think it's too late to talk about this at this time? Mia was stunned when she heard this. What should we do? Gray gave her advice. At times like this, you should stand up. Mia stood up honestly after hearing this. Gray nodded. Yes, that's it, and then sleep with him. Mia tried to look angry and glared at Gray. Gray clapped his hands. Very good, good expression. Keep it up. I already feel pressure, but the distance is a bit far. Come closer. Mia immediately took 2 steps forward, walked to Gray, and looked down at Gray condescendingly. Gray patted his thigh. Finally, sit on his lap hard and punish him. He promises to pay you immediately. Mia stupidly prepared to sit down, but suddenly she froze. She looked down and saw Gray, who was smiling evilly, and her face suddenly turned red. Then he got ready to run away angrily. But it was too late. Gray grabbed her white wrist. As she screamed, he pressed her down on the sofa, and Gray switched positions with her. Mia was on the sofa now, and Gray leaned over to look at her. Teacher Mia, how can you ask for salary from a black-hearted boss like this? Gray said with a smile. I don't want it. Mia said in a panic. Gray looked serious. No, I must give it to you. Mia was stunned, with some surprise on her face. Then you give me a reward. Gray pointed at himself. I'm going to give you 1 night as payment, what do you think? Mia suddenly shook her head in panic. No, I have to tell the Earl first. Gray was stunned. I'm just teasing you, why are you so direct? Gray lowered his head to look at Mia, and found that Miss Mia huddled up like a frightened little rabbit, and then secretly looked at him with big watery eyes. The thick eyelashes on her eyes trembled slightly to show her inner peace. It felt like she wasn't really resisting, but she just didn't get the Countess's consent. Gray scratched his head and didn't say anything. He just stood up and took out a beautiful ring from his arms and handed it to Mia. Yeah, storage ring. Mia's eyes lit up, and she immediately forgot about what happened just now, and took the ring happily. Then she exclaimed again, so much sugar. Yes, Gray filled the storage ring with candies as compensation for Mia. Gray coughed lightly and sat back on the sofa. To be honest, he was a little embarrassed just now. He just wanted to tease Mia, but he didn't expect her to be very serious. Now he feels that whether he admits it or not, he has been labeled as a pervert who is trying to do something to Mia. To put it this way, if the blame is already taken, wouldn't it be a loss if we don't do something? Gray looked at Mia again. Mia immediately took several steps back, and then she said, I'm going up to rest first, you should also rest early. Gray sat on the first floor, watching Mia's back go away, lost in thought, and finally sighed, it's all handsomeness that killed me. A few days later, as the official opening date of the commercial street arrived, the entire commercial district suddenly became lively. Various orcs were communicating with human merchants on the streets. Compared to the inexperienced orcs who were experiencing such a large-scale trade fair for the first time, the human merchants were much more sophisticated. Whether these people are wealthy businessmen or small traders, who did not do business at the bottom with people of different religions. Their shame is enough for them to fool the orcs for a long time. Even if the orcs were frightened by their enthusiasm or showed some strange expressions to them, they didn't care. Instead, they took the initiative to introduce the good things they brought. The effect of this is of course significant. Soon the human traders attracted the orcs. A large number of trading orders are determined in exchanges. A large amount of orc specialties were sent to Gray's city, and then distributed to the merchants after Gray took a commission. Merchants have encountered big customers like orcs. Regardless of the rustic clothes they wear, they look like savages. But they really have the goods in their hands. Even a mole clan can easily take out a whole piece of magic ore. Monster furs, bones, magic plants, magic ores, these orcs can really take them out at will. Including many materials that are extremely rare in the kingdom, you can also see them in large quantities here. And these orcs are really willing to spend money. When meeting such a big customer, how can the businessmen be willing to let them leave if they don't empty their pants? Many merchants sold out all the goods they brought in just half a day. But they didn't show any joy, instead they looked pained and uncomfortable. They regretted that they had brought too little goods. If I had known that they had sold the house in their hands and borrowed money, they should have prepared more goods. Now those businessmen who are ill-prepared can only watch helplessly as their colleagues around them are still making money with a smile on their face. This is worse than killing them. This businessman's carnival lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. In the end, only the largest businessmen in field territory were left to survive. Such as Harry and the others. As a Gray person, it is good for Gray to definitely inform them as soon as possible. And let them quietly purchase food, weapons, salt, spices and other useful materials a long time ago. By the time Gray and Anna started to release the news about the trade fair, Harry and the others had already stocked up countless warehouses. Gray then sent soldiers to escort their cargo north. This is all done very covertly. And the final result is that these businessmen who followed Gray are the ones who gained the most this time. Their warehouse can no longer hold the various materials traded by the orcs. And as long as they take these things back and resell them, they can directly increase their profits 4 to 5 times. Originally, according to the previous quotation given to the orcs by those black-hearted businessmen, they could make 10 times the profit. But Gray had told the orcs before that they would suffer a loss in this transaction. The food exchanged would definitely be more than those black-hearted merchants, and Gray also set rules in the city regarding human goods and materials in the hands of the orcs. The exchange price cannot be within a certain predetermined value. In other words, he set a ceiling for merchants' premiums. This is great news for the orcs. It's also good news for human traders. Because under normal circumstances, how many would dare to come to the orcs for business? Gray not only provides a safe and reliable place, but also provides a large number of customers. This is such a great thing that you can't even find it with a lantern. Who would be dissatisfied with such a safe, reliable and profitable trade fair? As for the price limit, you have already made 4 or 5 times the profit, how much more do you want? The only ones who have opinions may be those black-hearted businessmen. Gray's arrival immediately blocked all their roads. Harry and the others were already very satisfied. What else is there to be dissatisfied about now? This time their maximum profit was more than 2 million gold coins, maybe more. Of course, a third of them are Gray's. This was something Gray had already agreed with them. Participate in Gray's trade fair, and Gray will take 1/3 of the profits generated. This is not just for them, but for everyone. No businessman would be greedy for such a small amount of money. Gray has proven with actions that this is a safe and stable gold bag. Who would give up a cornucopia that can continue to bring them huge benefits just because of immediate benefits? So after the trade fair ended, Gray's manor was filled with all kinds of orc goods. Without saying a word, Gray asked Harry and the others to take these things away together. Some of the things the Countess needed would be kept for her, and for the others, Gray asked them to find channels to sell them, and just give him the money when they are done. That's the benefit of having a professional on your side. Gray only needs to point out the direction and the rest will fall into place. After the trade fair, businessmen who had tasted the benefits set off the first wave of land buying boom. Let's not talk about whether the houses in this emerging city are worth buying. The orc friends here are enough for them to spend a lot of money to buy some shops first. As for houses, a small number of people have also bought them. But this is an investment. Most businessmen only bought land in the commercial district, and small traders with no money could only rent small stalls on the roadside every time they came. When the hottest period is over, most merchants choose to go south to digest the goods in their hands. Some businessmen from Day left their manpower behind and began to run the shops here. Because the orcs all live nearby and there are so many of them, only a small number of people are needed to bring back the food and other supplies they exchanged. There are also many orcs who choose to hang out in this magical human city. For most orcs, this is their first time wandering around in a human city. What attracts them most is naturally the delicacies sold at roadside stalls and shops. Because of this trade fair, the orcs have realized the value of what they have in their hands, and they will no longer be as timid as before when spending money in the city. This allowed Gray's city shops to get back on track quickly after the trade fair. While the orcs were contributing wealth to Gray, Gray was sharing money with Quentin. Quentin trembled as he held the report Gray gave him. If his physique had not become stronger and his heart had not become stronger, he would have almost died suddenly due to excessive excitement. Quentin swallowed. You really give me so much money? Gray smiled. Of course not to you. Quentin. I just asked casually, are you really not going to give it? Gray smiled. I mean it's for you alone. You and Shaw can handle this wealth together. This money is enough for your current wolf tribe to have food and drink for 10 years. You can have many children. When the children grow up, maybe the wolf tribe can become the most powerful tribe among the orcs. Quentin's breath froze, and he couldn't help but start imagining the scene 10 years later. Werewolves are physically strong and can reproduce continuously. 10 years is enough for their population to increase several times. If he can continue to cooperate with Gray, within 50 years, he is confident that the wolf clan will become the strongest among the orcs. Quentin narrowed his eyes and looked at Gray. That quote, you seem to always give credit to Shaw. What exactly do you want to do? Gray raised his eyebrows when he heard this. I just want Shaw to become the king smoothly, and I am willing to help the Food Clan lead to glory. Quentin looked at Gray deeply. I hope what you said is true. Gray shrugged. Don't you think this is bad? You don't want Shaw to become the king. Quentin was silent for a moment, then sighed. Of course that's good. In the past few months, Shaw has grown very fast. Alas, I'm very happy in my heart. I just hope you don't betray her trust in you. Gray didn't say anything, he just looked like he believed it or not. Quentin put the report in his arms. How can you give me that wealth? The warehouse in the tribe is already full. Gray smiled. Don't worry, I've thought about it a long time ago. Here, I'll give you this token, one for you and Shaw. With your 2 tokens, you can withdraw your wealth from me, and you can exchange it for various. I will give you as much material as you need for planting. Quentin nodded after hearing this. That's fine. Gray, besides, since you can't spend so much money at once, why not invest in something here? Maybe it can save the wolves from having to worry about food in the future. Gray's words made Quentin's heart suddenly move. He had never thought about using money to make money just now. It's not that he didn't know that money could be used to invest in business, he just didn't have that kind of thinking. Zhao, he glanced at Gray and felt more and more that the wolf clan was lucky to have a talent like Gray as an ally. How to invest? Quentin asked. Gray patted his shoulder and took out another document from his arms. Gray, don't worry, Quentin, leave these to me. I have some good land here. I guarantee that I can double your investment within a year. Quentin's heart trembled, and he nodded while trying to maintain a calm expression. Wait until Gray sends Quentin away. Taya came to the door with Chuyi. Taya had a stern face, while Chuyi still had that gentle look. Taya, how are you doing? Do you want to follow me? My wolf knight. Gray looked at Taya with a smile. In fact, when Taya and the 2 came to the door, he had already confirmed Taya's final decision. Taya remained silent and did not speak until Chuyi on the side looked at him with pleading eyes, and then he sighed. We can work for you, and Chuyi is willing to serve you. Having said this, Taya looked at his sister helplessly. Chuya suddenly turned slightly red and lowered his head. Gray smiled. Then Miss Chuya, I will need more care from you in the future. From now on, we are truly our own people. Chuya's little face turned slightly red, and she said softly, "It's me who needs your care." The next morning, the werewolf lady who had already changed into a maid outfit served Gray and finished his breakfast. I have to say that some people are really talented. For example, Miss Akiba, although she is an orc and has never taken a maid course, when she serves Gray, she seems to be a maid who has been in the industry for many years. Moreover, Chuya was very diligent and washed all the clothes Gray had changed in the morning. Before that, Gray's clothes were all washed by Miss Mia. Gray finally returned to the days when he could reach out his hands for clothes and open his mouth for food. Gray felt very happy in his heart. As long as the animal-eared girl wears a maid outfit, she looks very good. Chuya, you and Taya have moved to the city, and Jianya is here too, right? Where do you live? Chuya replied. My brother bought a house in the city, and Janya lives with him. Janya is naughty and can't sit still. He always wants to go out to play, but our wolves look different from humans. FFL. When it comes to his younger brother, Chuya has some worries. Gray thought for a while. This reminds me, I will solve this matter, you don't have to worry. Gray realized that racial issues must be addressed from an early age. There is no education system in this world, and knowledge is only spread among the nobles. Children of nobles enjoyed all educational resources, while children of common people could only wander in the fields and streets. Adults need to work and farm, so it is difficult for them to have the energy to take care of their children. Most children will develop many bad habits during their long-term care, and most of them will become ruffians wandering in the city. This was completely avoidable for Gray. Children are the future flowers of the territory. As long as children are educated well, the security problems in this city can be fundamentally solved. And he has access to a wide variety of talent. In this era, even blacksmithing is a job that very few people can do. In this era, it can be said that there is a shortage of people in all walks of life. But there are no specialized institutions to train people. All walks of life still maintain the habit of teachers leading apprentices. This will greatly hinder social development and progress. For a newly developed territory like Gray, this problem is even more fatal. In the short term, he could only borrow people from field leader. After all, there are some types of jobs that cannot be done without. Gray plans to build 2 schools in the city, one for children aged 6 to 12, which will allow them to learn some common knowledge and writing on the continent, as well as sowing crops. Simple identification of some wild vegetables, simple math problems, and of course the important point is to instill in children the concept that humans and orcs can be friends. Anyway, Gray doesn't care about other places. There is a place for orcs in his city. Of slightly older children, between the ages of 13 and 16, can study in more advanced schools, which mainly teach various vocational skills. For example, blacksmith, tailor, pottery, herbal medicine, carpenter, gardener, etc. Of course, they can also have a second choice, which is the Soldier Academy. It specializes in cultivating students' physical fitness and combat capabilities. There are certain requirements for swordsmanship, spearmanship, bow and arrow, and riding skills. In the Soldier Academy, you need to endure hardships and stand hard work. Gray spent about 2 days putting together a structure for the school's affairs, and then sent a letter to the field to mobilize a group of talents from all walks of life. He then started having workers build a school in an area near a residential area. Primary schools and technical schools are relatively close to residential areas, while the Soldiers' Academy is next to the military camp. As soon as they heard that the city lord was actually going to open a school so that children of appropriate age in the city could learn knowledge and no longer have to idle around every day, the residents of the city immediately became excited. Many of them didn't even know the words. As adults who were once extremely hungry for knowledge and eager to learn a skill to change their destiny, they immediately realized that school can give their children the power to change their lives. So after just releasing the news of preparing to build a school, countless Tangkangs began to spontaneously express their willingness to help build the school when they were free. At the same time, there were more residents outside Gray Manor. Everyone comes here to ask about their children's enrollment in school. Also ask about tuition fees. Gray couldn't bear the harassment from the residents, and once again informed the entire city that a city hall was about to be opened. If he had any questions, he could ask the officials there. As for the candidates for officials in the city hall, Gray doesn't have to worry. He has already sent a message to Anna. Anna's field family has sufficient talent reserves. A week later, the talents were in place, the city hall was quickly up and running, and residents began to gather in that direction. Without the harassment from residents, Gray feels much more comfortable. Although he is the city lord, as the owner of the territory, what he should do is to point out the direction for the development of the territory, instead of consulting the residents every day and providing them with popular science. He doesn't have that much time. City Hall will be very busy recently, because some of Gray's previous actions have finally taken effect in the southern city. Many residents who lived unsatisfactory lives in the south began to come to the north. Gray is already preparing to receive it. In addition, Harry has followed Gray's instructions and invested a large amount of wealth from the sale of work goods into the territories of several surrounding nobles, including Field. Overnight, countless hot pot restaurants, fried chicken restaurants, and cake shops sprung up like mushrooms after a rain. In addition to these shops, there are also some restaurants with obvious Chinese style that stand out. For a time, the entire western part of the kingdom was directly ruled by delicacies from Field. The original stew suddenly became awkward. After many people tasted the food from Field, they realized that besides stewing, there are many ways to process food. And they discovered that the beef and mutton in the restaurant tasted great. There is no unpleasant fishy smell at all. The smell of those restaurants, hot pot restaurants, and fried chicken restaurants was so fragrant. Residents had smelled the aroma, and residents who had eaten there had given crazy likes, so soon there were queues outside these stores in countless cities. There was a long dragon. The reputation of those shops is also growing, making residents who originally didn't have many entertainment activities want to come and see the excitement. Finally, throughout the cities in the west of the kingdom, countless nobles also began to require chefs to master the methods of those brand new dishes. This makes many chefs so worried that they cannot sleep. Many chefs even line up every day just to try those foods. If possible, they would also like to see how it is done. Unfortunately, they have rarely seen the various condiments in hot pot restaurants, especially soy sauce, sesame sauce and the like, which they have never heard of. You can't learn even if you want to. As for the Chinese restaurant, let alone that, you can't even enter the kitchen. Not to mention the fried chicken restaurant, there was nothing but a pot of oil. The chefs have no choice but to eat every day and then work backwards based on the appearance and taste of the dishes. This was a very long process, so they had to mention to the noble lords that they needed more time. If possible, they want the help of noble gentlemen, because if they can't enter the kitchen and learn cooking methods with their own eyes, it will be difficult to explain the whole process. The noble gentlemen expressed their understanding after hearing this. Everyone has their own difficulties, and they are not unreasonable people. Then he drove the chefs back to their hometowns that day, and then sent people to those restaurants to hire their chefs to work for them. But it is a pity that those chefs are all trained by the Field family. They cannot be loyal to others. They can cook, but if you want them to serve other nobles, that is not possible. There was no other way, and the nobles uniformly began to write letters to Anna. I hope Anna can send them some chefs. If not, let their chefs learn cooking skills. Anna dismissed this. She wouldn't let anyone else learn Gray's recipe. This is Gray's thing, and she doesn't want to give it to anyone else except the Field family and Gray. Gray didn't know much about the situation in the south. He didn't know that his recipes were so popular outside that the chefs had to work together to decipher his recipes. However, they soon realized that these dishes, which completely subverted the traditional food methods, were not something they could deduce. So they choose to learn secretly. This is the time for all the great chefs to show off their talents. In fact, Gray never thought that he could hold the recipe in his own hands so that no one else could learn it. It's out of the question. He has chosen to use the catering industry to make money for himself, so he already understands that as long as the recipes are spread, others will definitely learn them secretly. This kind of thing cannot be stopped. Because people are flawed. Human nature cannot be tested. The chefs at Field may be able to do it, feel allegiance to the Countess. But they couldn't possibly reveal a word about the recipe. So Gray doesn't care if anyone learns secretly. What he cares about is who is the source and who is authentic. As long as the brand effect of the founder is established, even if counterfeiters pop up, they will not threaten his position. As for the brand effect, he had already ordered Anna to deal with it before. He believed in Anna's ability and could handle this matter. At this moment, Gray was confronting Taya in the backyard of the manor. Taya had already taken off his shirt and pants and was only wearing a pair of large underpants. He was preparing to transform into a beast and fight Gray. Those clothes and pants couldn't bear the pressure of his transformation, so Taya took them off. He liked those clothes very much. They were very comfortable and valuable. He didn't want to lose a set of clothes he liked because of a fight. Gray looked at Taya speechlessly. Actually, we don't have to fight, haven't you heard? I defeated Hei Wen, the elder of the Torin clan, head on. He is stronger than Quentin. You are not as good as Quentin. You have no chance of winning against me. Gray didn't want to do anything, especially in front of Chuya. As a master, he shouldn't beat her brother in front of her. Chuya on the side also advised, brother, please stop making trouble. You are the deputy commander of the city guard. Lord Gray is the city lord and part-time orthodox leader. How can you do this? Taya curled his lips when he heard this. Chuya, don't say anything. I have agreed that you will be his maid, but I am a man. I can work for him, and I can completely surrender to him, but the premise is that he must be upright. Beat me. I don't care what others say, anyway, I just want to have an honest fight with you. If you win, I will swear allegiance to you. Isn't this what you want? Gray shrugged upon hearing this. I do want your allegiance, but are you really sure you want to fight? I only ask for the last time, are you sure that as long as I win, you will leave the Wolf clan? Pledge allegiance to me. Taya glanced at his sister and said firmly, I'm sure. Since Chuya has followed you, I will definitely be by her side to take care of her. As long as you defeat me, I will always be loyal to you. This is what you want to see. And that's what she wants to see. Gray glanced at Chuya, a little surprised that Chuya wanted his brother to be loyal to him. What kind of idea is this to deceive my brother? Gray thinks the idea is great. Then come on. Gray could only take action against Taya. The battle between the two has no suspense at all. Within 2 minutes, Taya was knocked down by Gray. In fact, Gray could resolve the battle in a few seconds, but he felt that this would be too much of a blow to Iron Fang, so he took a little longer to defeat him. Taya was put down to the ground by Gray. He lay on his back, finally accepting the reality in his heart. Gray is really strong, ridiculously strong. That completely belongs to the powerful power of a high-level warrior. The kind of momentum that cannot be resisted but can only be crushed. Taya was silent for a while, then recovered his body and began to put on his clothes. Gray just watched quietly. After he was completely dressed, Taya hesitated and turned to look at Gray. Taya, stare. Gray, why is this guy looking straight at me? Does he want to go back on his word? It was bad. He had just struck a heavy blow, which gave him a high IQ and made him realize that he could still regret it. Gray felt a little annoyed because he had become more straightforward just now. Just as he was sighing in his heart, Taya spoke. The tall young man, who was nearly 2 meters tall, asked in a very low voice, do you have to kneel down to swear allegiance? Gray breathed a sigh of relief when he heard this. He patted Taya on the shoulder. Taya, I thought you regretted it. Taya shook his head. I will do what I say. Gray gave him a thumbs up. Awesome, a pure man. Taya, do you want to kneel down or not? Gray did not respond to the question, but asked, do you think you should kneel? Taya thought for a while, then knelt down on one knee. From today on, Taya will become your most loyal servant. Gray, master. Taya felt a little uncomfortable when he called Lord Gray, but it was not because he was dissatisfied with Gray. Just after Taya was defeated by Gray in a majestic manner, he was already convinced by Gray. Now he just remembered his previous attitude towards Gray, and recalled the first time he thought Gray was a weakling, and how he made such nonsense at the beginning. And now he knelt in front of Gray and vowed to follow Gray forever. Naturally, I felt a little weird. Gray nodded with satisfaction. Finally, he had his first warrior who swore allegiance to him. Before, whether it was Mia, Alvin, Walker, or Jean. They are all Anna's people. 0. It's just because Anna asked them to obey Gray's orders that they were by Gray's side. Once upon a time, Gray didn't have a single following. Now, he has. He is also the most talented werewolf in the current generation of the Wolf clan. Iron Fang is a powerful being who will definitely become an orc elder, equivalent to a high-level human warrior. Gray is naturally happy to be able to gain the loyalty of a person of this level. Then something happened to him while he was happy. I saw Gray putting his hand on Tai Ya's arm, preparing to help him up. The moment the two came into contact, Gray felt a faint trace of power separate from the center of his eyebrows and sink into Tai Ya's arm. Tai Ya suddenly felt his body start to heat up. He looked at Gray in astonishment, and Gray looked at him in confusion. The two looked at each other, and both could see the other's confusion. Then Tai Ya's confusion quickly turned into surprise and disbelief. He took Gray's hand and looked at it carefully but found nothing. He looked at his arm again and found that there was a golden mark there like the character Yuan. Tai Ya, Master Gray, what is this? I seem to have reached some kind of contract with you. Gray, I'm not sure. This is the first time this has happened to me. How do you feel? Tai Ya showed his razor-like fangs. I feel very good, and it's getting better and better. Although I don't know how you did it, the power you just gave me started the third transformation of my bloodline. We will be promoted soon. Tai Ya said with an excited smile. He had only transformed once in the past 2 years. Logically speaking, the third transformation would probably take a long time. It may take 10 or 20 years before the power of blood can even have the slightest chance of transformation. But now, with the power Gray gave him, the blood power in his body seemed to break free of its heavy shackles in an instant and began to become active rapidly. This kind of active Iron Fang is too familiar. This was the case with the last 2 bloodline power transformations. Gray looked at Tai Ya, who was still talking and laughing with him, and he was a little surprised. At such an important time, shouldn't you find a safe place to sit quietly, or take the initiative to cooperate with the power of blood to transform? Tai Ya waved his hand. No. The power of the orc bloodline transforms. You don't need to do anything, just wait. The only thing that needs to be paid attention to is the change in power after the transformation. Just as he was talking, Tai Ya suddenly started to transform into a beast. In Gray's surprised gaze, the black and gray werewolf faded away from black, and its hair began to turn towards silver. Soon, a silver werewolf appeared in front of Gray. At the same time, a powerful aura was released from the inside out of Tai Ya's body. Tai Ya's transformation was completed and he was completely promoted to an orc elder, achieving a qualitative leap in strength. Seeing with his own eyes that he had created another silver creature, Gray felt a little confused. But it is obvious that whether it is Tai Ya or the 2 iron bulls, they all changed after they reached a contract with Gray. This made Gray once again start to face up to whether he had really turned into a high-level life form similar to the Elf Queen. Gray decided to add more knowledge in this area when he had time. Gray walked to Tai Ya. How do you feel? Tai Ya closed his eyes, and the silver hair on his body began to slowly fade away, but his silver ears and silver tail were very conspicuous. I feel very good. I feel comfortable all over. It feels like every organ in my body is cheering. Tai Ya felt the changes in his body carefully, and there was an indescribable sense of joy on his face. There is a feeling of a mistake being corrected, as if all my previous transformations were wrong. Only this time, the transformation, 563, has been truly completed. Tai Ya said as if he was feeling something. And this transformation has brought about great changes in me, and I can also feel the power of the elements. As he spoke, streaks of ice appeared on Tai Ya's right hand. Gray raised his eyebrows. Direwolf bloodline. Tai Ya was also stunned for a moment. No, it doesn't look like it. This is not the power in the blood, but the power of this element that I control after my transformation. Gray was even more surprised. Don't orcs have no talent for practicing fighting spirit and magic? Tai Ya also scratched his head. Yes, it has always been said that, for thousands of years, we have relied on the power of blood as our foundation. Gray touched his chin. Those are 2 possibilities. One is because of me, and the other is that orcs are not really unable to control the power of magic. Tai Ya looked at Gray blankly. Sir, what are you really like? You just gave me a little strength and you allowed me to have this completely transformed change. Having said this, Tia knelt in front of Gray again. This time he kowtowed. Thank you, sir, for giving me great strength. Gray wanted to say that that little bit of mental power was just a drop in the bucket for him, and he didn't know why in Tai Ya's body, his mental power could make it undergo huge changes. This reminded Gray of those two cows. When signing a master-servant contract, you also need to use your mental power. Well, could it be that the root of my mutation is mental power? It's very possible when you think about it. Gray looked at Chuya aside while thinking. Chuya watched everything, and also saw the changes in Tai Ya. She was happy and proud that her brother had become stronger. At the same time, she also saw that it was Gray who gave Tai Ya the power to transform. Chuya was not as excited as ordinary people. She just returned to the manor very calmly, and then walked out with another set of clothes. Master Gray, Tai Ya's clothes are broken, can I give him a new set? Chuya asked. Gray nodded. Of course, I would have forgotten about his naked butt if you didn't tell me. Tai Ya put on his clothes with a smile, and then the three of them returned to the manor. Gray said calmly, don't tell anyone about this. Tia and Chuya both said, understood. Tia will go out with me tonight. As for Chuya, do you want to sign a strange contract with me like your brother? Gray has some uncertain openings. He wasn't sure if he could control this power freely, so he wanted to try. If successful, Chuya's strength will also be greatly improved. If it fails, nothing is lost. Chuya looked up at Gray. I do. There was a look of anticipation in her eyes. Of course she is willing to become stronger like her brother Tai Ya, so that she can help Master Gray do more things. After Gray heard Chuya's reply, he and Chuya immediately came to her room. The room is located on the first floor, not very spacious, after all, it is a maid, but it is clean and warm. Gray asked her to sit on the bed, and then held Chuya's hand. The next moment, golden runes appeared in Chuya's palm, and Gray felt that another ray of his spiritual power was separated into Chuya's body. The next moment, Chuya also felt the changes in his body. Master Gray, I feel your power moving through my body. Chuya's breathing became rapid, and a blush appeared on her face. Soon she also began to transform into a beast. However, the female werewolf's animal form is not completely animalistic. Instead, focus on the limbs and hair. Chuya's limbs seemed to be wearing furry toy limbs, and his hair began to grow longer. At the same time, there was also some hair growth near the spine from the back of the neck to the upper half of the back. Other places are still the same as human beings. They look a little less gentle and a little more wild and beautiful. I have to say, it is really pleasing to the eye. Gray admired the beauty of the autumn leaves. Soon, her transformation was completed. Like her brother Tai Ya, Chuyi's hair turned silver. She also felt the sense of relief and the feeling of having her bloodline power corrected that her brother had described. After watching the whole process, Gray confirmed that he could indeed regenerate living creatures through the power of the contract. Before, he always thought that the only people he could contract were animals. Now he discovered that he and the orcs could also form a contract. And it's not a contract concluded with magic, but a special way. This method also has requirements, requiring both Gray and the other party to agree on a certain relationship. Only in this case can Gray take the initiative to conclude a contract with the other party. I just don't know if it can have such an effect with other races. In addition, Gray can sense an additional connection between himself and Tai Ya and Chuyi in his own mind. The contract left Gray's mark on the souls of the two brothers and sisters. From then on, the two brothers and sisters will always be loyal to Gray. At the same time, he vaguely has the power to erase their souls with mental power at any time. This is the power of contract. They get their power from Gray. And Gray gains their loyalty and the power to control their lives and deaths. If this contract could be applied to any race, Gray felt like he had found a way to quickly accumulate his own team and strong men. Gray didn't think too much here. There were some things that he couldn't finish thinking about or understand at the moment. He wasn't in a hurry. He had plenty of time to think about it slowly. Gray stood up and prepared to leave. Chuya has returned to her normal state. The transformation of her palms did not damage her clothes, but the transformation of her soles and calves did damage her leather shoes. Gray lowered his head and saw her crystal clear feet and round and plump toes. Perhaps because of Gray's intense gaze, Chuya couldn't help but shrink his little feet. Gray coughed slightly to cover up the embarrassment of staring at Giorgio just now. Gray, I'll wait for you outside. Chuya pursed her lips, grabbed the corner of Gray's clothes, and then stretched her feet out of the skirt, standing in front of Gray. You can touch it if you like. When Taya was waiting impatiently outside the door was opened, and Gray walked out with a heavy expression on his face. Seeing Gray's heavy expression, Taya couldn't calm down anymore. Master Gray, what happened to my sister? Gray subconsciously said, your sister is great, she is white, soft and moist, especially her feet. Taya. The air was quiet for a second. Taya stared at Gray with a very interesting expression. At this moment, his mood was extremely complicated. As a subordinate, he should feel honored for this. It is a kind of recognition and trust that his sister can be favored by the adults he is loyal to. But as an older brother, he also subconsciously felt that his cabbage was being taken advantage of. Taya is undoubtedly an excellent and loyal subordinate. He only regained his composure after his complexion for a moment. When he thought of Chuya, he had been pestering him these past few days to take the initiative to be a maid for Master Gray. As an older brother, he didn't know what his sister was thinking. It's just that he didn't expect this day to come so soon. Forget it, she is willing, and if it is Master Gray, then there will be no problem. Gray paused, feeling that he might have just said something that Taya misunderstood. He quickly spoke again. Don't get me wrong, we didn't do anything, we just. Before he could finish speaking, Taya waved his hand. You don't need to explain, Chuyi is voluntary, I won't have any objection. Gray, okay, actually Gray doesn't know how to explain it, saying that he touched his sister in the room. And then say that you and others are innocent. Gray felt that he couldn't be so shameless. He doesn't want to either, but the cute animal-eared girl invites you to touch Giorgio, who can refuse? I feel that Autumn Leaves feel a little different from Shaw. The muscles on Shaw's body are well proportioned, and her long legs are straight, smooth but very tight. Autumn Leaves are different, they are more fleshy and soft when pinched. Gray changed the topic. By the way, from today on, you will be in charge of the city guard. Now you are the orthodox leader. Our territory does not have an army that truly belongs to us yet. You need to solve these 10 points. Now the population in the territory has begun to grow, and many residents from various places are young and middle-aged, and they can all be excellent soldiers. The Field family's army is indeed good, but Gray also wants his own army. After Taya became his own person, Gray was naturally relieved to let him handle this matter. Money, equipment, and food are no problem. I need you to recruit an army of 3,000 men as soon as possible before spring. Gray and Taya explained their needs. Taya has its own advantages. He is an orc. Not only can he recruit humans in the city, he can also send out news to recruit orcs. Especially people from the Wolf tribe and the Tauren tribe. Their relationship with Gray has long been close. The Tauren clan is even more responsive to Gray's requests. As long as Taya goes to talk, I believe that the Tauren clan can provide Gray with at least 500 warriors. It's not that they don't want to give Gray more. After all, being able to serve as soldiers under Gray means that they are closer to the Silver Holy Beast. For such a good thing, the Niatu clan will probably be able to fight for it. But the territory of the Niatu clan also needs enough power to protect itself. So 500 people is already quite a lot. As for the Werewolf tribe, it seems that he and Gray are more partners in interests. But in fact, Shaw already controls most of the Werewolf tribe. As long as Gray gives her a signal, she can probably squeeze out 500 people. The werewolf population is smaller than that of the Tauren. 500 people are still very important to them, so it is good to be able to support 500 people. For the remaining 2,000 people, Gray estimates that it will not be a big problem to recruit them before spring. There may even be many people who want to join the army but have no chance. According to the report given to him by the people at the city hall yesterday, the population growth this week has reached 600 people. This number will reach its peak within the next month. It may slowly decrease in winter. Gray estimates that this wave will bring him a population increase of 5,000 people. This is already a lot, after all, it's only 1 month. After winter comes, people will definitely come here one after another. After Taiya received the order, he naturally had no objection. Soon, Taiya left, and he was going to post the recruitment notice. At night, Taiya returned to the manor and went out with Gray. Gray planned to see how much Taiya's combat power increased. The two found a remote place to have a fight. Taiya tried his best, but was still suppressed by Gray. The battle ended soon, and Gray had finished the evaluation. Now Gray is even better than Hei Wen. This made Taiya himself feel incredible. Then the two returned to the city that night and continued their work. In fact, in this era, only the nobles could afford professional soldiers. For example, Field's army is composed of professional soldiers with extremely strong combat effectiveness. But at the same time, the consumption is also high. Just raising those troops, the Field family has already tried their best. Some small nobles have no professional soldiers at all. Whenever there is a war and respond to the king's call, they will force their subjects to stop the battlefield. You can imagine how low the combat effectiveness of those people in the territory who usually don't even have enough to eat and don't have any decent clothes. Although Gray is not a big noble, he is rich. Being rich means being willful, and he can raise an army. As long as there is money and benefits, some people are willing to join the army. Neither Taiya nor Gray thought conscription was a difficult task. Sure enough, not long after the notice was posted, the military recruitment registration point that had just been opened next to the city hall was quickly filled with people signing up. Although Gray's city is very clean and beautiful, it is also very prosperous and has huge commercial value. But after all, this is a land outside the kingdom, within the scope of the orcs' activities. If ordinary residents can no longer live where they are, how many of them will come back? Therefore, the residents who can live here are, without exception, people who are willing to take risks for their lives. They are all willing to take risks and don't mind taking more risks. At least the benefits and subsidies given by Gray are very high. In particular, taxes on military family members can be reduced by 30%. This is attractive enough for residents of the entire city. Many families with a large family are willing to send a young man to serve as a soldier. So in just 3 days, the number of applicants had reached 500. Gray took a look and said, "Good guys, among the existing residents, almost every household has signed up." Among them were not only middle-aged men over 40, but also teenagers who were just 14 or 15 years old. Gray's face turned dark when he saw the information. "Gray, half of the people here are not good. I'm not talking about people in their 40s, why are there still people in their 50s and 60s? I'll screen out such people immediately. You can add one more item to the recruitment standards, only young adults over 17 years old and under 30 years old. Those who are 14 or 15 years old, write down their names, and when the soldier academy is built, throw them in and train for a while." Gray quickly issued his order. The next day, most of the residents in the city looked sad. There is no one in their family who meets the requirements to become the city lord's soldier. This means they cannot take advantage of tax deductions. And those families whose family members were successfully recruited into the army were all happy. Although Gray's recruitment requirements have already passed a lot of people, there is still a steady stream of people signing up. Especially some young people who just came here with nothing. They were originally looking for opportunities. Unexpectedly, I encountered conscription in the city as soon as I arrived. Looking at the treatment of soldiers, oh my God, not only do they get 5 silver coins every month, but they also provide food and accommodation, and they are even allocated a house after 3 years of joining the army. There are even soldiers who can choose to retire after serving for more than 10 years. After retirement, the city lord will allocate land. If you don't want land, a good job will be arranged. Is this a conscription? Isn't this giving away money, land, and jobs? As soon as these young people saw this, they rushed to sign up one by one. It's not like they haven't seen noble lords recruiting soldiers. In those places, food and accommodation are included, and a military salary of 1 silver coin per month is already a very good treatment. Just like that, they had no chance to serve as soldiers locally. There is no way, there are too many people, everyone wants to enter the military camp. But now, there is an opportunity in front of them that far exceeds those benefits. Why don't thousands of people fight against them? Of course they don't want to let it go. They come here just to get ahead, and they won't let go of such a good opportunity now. So when winter just entered, Taya recruited 3,000 human soldiers. There are even people signing up. Gray was satisfied with this and did not continue the draft. It's not that he thinks there are too many people, it's just that the current venues and military camps can only accommodate so many people. Moreover, there are still 500 Tauren soldiers and 500 werewolf soldiers crowded in the military camp. Recruiting 3,000 ugly soldiers is already the limit. Therefore, conscription can only be temporarily suspended. Gray asked Taya to start training the new soldiers. Since Taya was an orc, Gray was afraid that Taya could not grasp the endurance of the soldiers, so he took pictures of Alvin and others. They often fight with the army, are very familiar with military life, and understand some basic training methods. And they also have some training programs provided by Gray. So the new recruits can get started quickly. And the progress is encouraging. It is estimated that this winter they will be able to meet the requirements of professional soldiers, and the rest is combat experience. Gray left the training of new recruits to them. And he himself took Mia and Chuya to the Snake Tribe about a month ago, that is, right after he revised the conscription rules. Go back to a month ago. Some special guests at Gray's estate are having tea with him. Gray's eyes moved down from the slender waist of the voluptuous and woman opposite, and saw a slender and stunning red snake tail. Hiss. I don't know why, but this female seductress has a kind of charm when she twists her waist, making people unable to take their eyes away. Gray silently despised himself for being so unable to resist temptation, and then he endured the condemnation of his conscience and continued to watch. Ahem. In a moment of silence, Mia on the other side picked up the teacup and took a sip with an expressionless expression, then coughed lightly. When Gray looked away from the snake human beauty, she stood up and poured Gray a drink, then stood between Gray and the snake human beauty. Gray looked at Mia, who had her back turned to him, and silently took a sip of tea. Madam, what do you want to do with Mr. Gray? If you have anything to do, just say it directly. Please don't waste Mr. Gray's time and respond to it. Mia stared at the snake human beauty calmly, with no emotion in her big eyes, vaguely as if something was trying to escape. The snake human beauty was still flirting with Gray. She was a little annoyed that someone had ruined the atmosphere, but when she looked up, she saw the look in Mia's eyes. A feeling as if she was being stared at by something terrible made this snake human beauty feel as if she had fallen into an ice cellar. She swallowed her saliva, and then no longer expressed her charm intentionally or unintentionally, but said with a smile, "Okay. Okay." Under Mia's strong pressure, the beauty of the snake tribe cowered. Her tail no longer swayed lazily and seductively, but directly curled up into a ball. The aura of an intermediate peak magician was enough to make this snake human beauty feel that her life was in danger. Seeing that the coquettish snake spirit in front of her finally stopped posing, Mia snorted softly, walked over from Gray, and sat elegantly on the sofa next to Gray again. It was as if she had done nothing and nothing had happened. Gray glanced at the trembling snake man beauty opposite, huddled in a ball, and immediately lost the mood to continue admiring the alien beauty. "Okay, Maggie, you just said you wanted to negotiate a big deal with me, let's talk about it." Gray turned the beauty snake's attention to himself. Maggie was so frightened just now that the look in Mia's eyes made her seem to see herself being cut into 8 pieces and cooked into snake soup. Fortunately, Gray diverted her attention, otherwise Maggie might really be frightened and cause problems. She is just an ordinary snake human, stronger than ordinary humans, but facing an intermediate magician, she is still far behind. With Mia's strength, the only one in the human race who can block her momentum is the elder level. The leader level snake men had no choice but to face Mia. Maggie glanced at Gray gratefully. Gray pulled her out of the extremely frightened mental state just now, which prevented her from being mentally traumatized. Mia on the side curled her lips and glanced at Gray with some resentment. Gray didn't look at her, but was more interested in the business in Maggie's mouth. He has spent a lot of money recently, and although the money will return to Gray's hands after a period of time, with multiples of growth, that will also be after a period of time. For Gray now, it would be a good choice if he could make money and communicate with the snake people at the same time. Of the 8 major tribes of orcs, Gray currently controls 2, and there are still 6 tribes left. It's like this. When our tribe stayed at your place before, they discovered that your house has a special heating system that can quickly warm the room. Maggie tried her best to ignore Mia on the side, and she said quickly, because my people did not feel any magic fluctuations, she asked your people and heard that this is a device called a heater, which can be used completely. Magic can stabilize the device that creates the heat source. The elder was very interested after hearing about it, so he wanted me to ask you if you can install this kind of device in our snake tribe, and we can pay enough remuneration. Maggie explained her purpose, and Gray understood. Unlike snakes, the snake people hibernate when winter comes. But after all, they have some characteristics of snakes. They can move at low temperatures, but they prefer warm environments. Winter is the most annoying time for them every year. Most of them will huddle together in groups and light fires to keep warm. This method of heating is very inefficient, especially in winter when 10 people are lying next to a fire. And only the center position is warm, and the surrounding positions are not warm at all. So when the elders of the snake tribe heard that Gray had something that could make the whole room warm, they were already excited. Gray reminded, I must first state that winter is about to begin. Even if my people work overtime, it is impossible to meet the heating needs of all of you before winter begins. Is this okay? Of course, if you think it is okay, then we can discuss the issue of remuneration. My workers will not be lazy in winter, provided the remuneration is enough. Gray said with a smile. The snake people seemed not to care much about him as an outsider. From beginning to end, they neither drove Gray away nor were as intimate as Gray. Gray's contact with them was at the trade fair, and Gray politely gave them some tickets. The snake people also came at that time, but they were obviously very wary on the first day. But I relaxed in the next few days. Later he also participated in that transaction. A pleasant transaction made the snake people recognize the value of this human city. Now that they are actively asking for help, Gray certainly has no reason to refuse. The snake people quickly negotiated the wages with Gray. Both parties were very satisfied. Gray felt that it was indeed a big tribe. So many treasures had been traded at the fair, and now Li Nuos could actually bring out dozens of carts of good stuff. Gray earned hundreds of thousands of gold coins with tears and blood, and then immediately set off with his little yellow hat workers and the snake people. Because it was his first time to visit the snake tribe, Gray was not at ease. As the saying goes, you must be on guard against others. There are beautiful snakes everywhere in that place. His little yellow hats can withstand the covetousness of the female fairies. Without him following, Gray is afraid that these hundreds of workers will never come back. Mia and Chuya both rolled their eyes at Gray's firm request to go together, and in the name of protecting workers. Now both of them probably understand the nature of this lord. Is he going to protect others? He obviously wants to harm others. In order to ensure that Gray would not be taken advantage of by the beautiful snakes, Mia and Chuya immediately proposed to go together. So the three of them left the city with a few hundred little yellow hat workers, 200 light cavalry, and 500 infantry and headed towards the snake tribe. The mountain road was rugged, so Gray didn't have a carriage. Instead, he rode a horse and spent a day and night under the leadership of the snake people before he reached a valley. There is thick fog here all year round, and not far from this valley is a swamp. The terrain here is very complicated, with swamps in the north, mountains and forests in the west, river bends with many river veins in the east, and the sea further to the east. From the moment you step into the territory of the snake tribe, you can see all kinds of snakes crawling on the ground, on trees, in the water, and in the cracks of stones. Maggie picked up a few highly venomous snakes and put them on her arms to play with. The poisonous snake was not dissatisfied at all, and would even swim on Maggie's fair arms, neck, and waist. Gray looked a little speechless. Maggie, you didn't say there are venomous snakes everywhere here. He brought thousands of people this time. In a place surrounded by poisonous snakes, he could not guarantee that everyone would be safe. And in a place where poisonous snakes like this are running around, workers can't start working. Maggie understood what Gray was thinking. She smiled and said, "Don't worry, we have already considered these issues." As she spoke, she whistled. The sound echoed in the empty valley. Soon, rustling sounds were heard in the thick fog. Soon a dozen snake men and women crawled out of the thick fog, all carrying a large basket of things on their backs. It looks like a crude bracelet. The bracelet is made of hemp rope and has a piece of wood on it. Gray smelled it, and there was some strange smell on his head. Distribute these and bring them with them, and everything will be fine, Maggie said, reaching out to hold Gray's wrist and putting it on herself. Gray glanced at the bracelet and stopped paying attention. With his strength, this is completely unnecessary. Although snakes are cold-blooded animals, their sense of danger is not very keen. This is the instinct of animals. No snake will approach him. Even if he does not release any fighting spirit at all, snakes will be sensitive to avoid him. Unless it's Warcraft. After everyone put on their bracelets, Maggie and others took them deep into the valley. In the valley, houses made of thatch, wood, and animal skins are scattered up and down. The entire valley is occupied by the snake people. In the center of the valley is a huge stone house. They are said to be stone houses, but they are actually roofs built randomly with large stones. Without listening to Maggie's words, it would be difficult for Gray to be sure that this is a stone house. Those who didn't know thought these were some kind of ruins. Don't underestimate this place. There is a big pit below. It is very warm inside. There are many winding passages, as if something has been drilled out. Maggie was very satisfied with the warm environment under the stone house. It was just a little dark and narrow inside, but everything else was fine. Gray nodded, and he also felt that the fire element in this place was a little more active than in other places. It was almost winter, and there were still green trees around the valley, but he already felt something was wrong. It is now certain that the temperature in this place is higher than in other places. Gray guessed that there might be some kind of volcano under his feet. Some volcanoes will be buried by the earth after geological changes. In the previous life, there was a small volcano that had just emerged from the ground. Only one peak emerged and it would erupt. But if this was an active volcano, it would be impossible for it to go unnoticed for 100 years. There is a high probability that there is an extinct volcano buried here. I just don't know how deep it is. I don't know if the big pit was dug by some creatures in the past. They want to dig out the volcano. This thought flashed through Gray's mind, and then he shook his head and stopped thinking about it. He led his men and horses towards the snake tribe. In order not to make the other party too nervous, Gray asked the large troops to wait outside, while he took his personal maid Chuya and the magician Mia and followed Maggie deep into the tribe where he met the elder of the snake people. It can be seen that this elder still has charm. Her long hair was tied up high, exposing her slender neck, and she was dressed frugally, revealing a large area of skin and the waist of the snake-human ancestral water snake. Gray thought to himself that this place is really evil. How come both the old snake spirit and the young snake spirit have a pair of seductive eyes and a thrilling waist? Gray looked at the snake elder unscrupulously. The snake elder was also looking at Gray. The snake tribe is not a powerful tribe among the 8 major tribes. Their tribe is the last among all tribes. The reason is also very simple, because their body structure determines that their combat effectiveness is not strong. Moreover, another frustrating problem of the snake tribe is that there are too many men and girls. This makes the snake people's combat effectiveness even lower. As a last resort, the snake tribe can only make women become warriors. But even so, they are still the weakest among the 8 major tribes. There are no other tribes that will rely on them. They themselves can only ensure that they will not be bullied too harshly by other tribes. Therefore, the snake tribe has always had a low sense of existence. They also knew about it when JAJBC Lay built the city, but what was the use? Once they know it, and they can't take any action. However, the snake tribe will still pay attention to Gray's situation. They also got the news that the Tauren were defeated, and even the elder of the Tauren, He Wen, was defeated. At that time, this news shocked this beautiful woman. Fortunately, since Gray came here, he has not taken the initiative to use force, nor has he bullied the orcs. This made the snake people feel at ease. It wasn't until the trade fair that the snake elders realized that what Gray might have brought them was not a disaster, but an opportunity. This time she invited Gray to help. Apart from the fact that she really needed something like heating, she just wanted to get in touch with Gray. Seeing this, she was also very surprised. She had always known Gray to be a young human. But she never expected that Gray was so young. At such a young age, he can defeat He Wen. How high is this human's cultivation talent? The snake man elder's mind quickly became active. She smiled and asked someone to bring Gray a drink. There was a scarlet liquid lying in the wooden cup, which looked like plasma. Gray didn't smell a fishy smell, but instead smelled a light fruity aroma. Gray took a sip without hesitation. He immediately showed a surprised look. Is this a secret medicine? He felt that his fighting spirit was a little more active. This is the first time that his fighting spirit has been so active since he was promoted to advanced fighting spirit. You don't need to think about it to know that those scarlet liquids are good things. It seems that Master Gray is very compatible with my clan's snake heart fruit. The snake man elder was a little surprised by Gray's reaction. She also felt the majestic power in Gray's body become active instantly. This made her look at Gray even brighter. With the flash of power just now, she was sure that this strong human being was even more powerful than she imagined. This is not a secret medicine. I can't say the real secret medicine accurately. It is just the juice of a snake heart fruit. The snake heart fruit is a magic fruit cultivated by the snake people. It is of great benefit to the blood transformation of the snake people. Of course, it is not only beneficial to the snake people, but also to other creatures. Some people like you, who are suitable for snake heart fruit, will have a certain improvement in strength, and even people who are not very suitable for snake heart fruit will have small surprises after taking it. When the snake elder said this, he looked at Chuya and Mia. The two young ladies should have felt the changes in their bodies. Mia and Chuya nodded after hearing this. Chuya whispered, I feel that my sense of smell, vision and physical fitness have been improved. Mia nodded. Me too, snake heart fruit can improve the physical fitness of ordinary people, which is a good thing. Mia subconsciously looked at the snake man elder, and her little head was already wondering if she could find a suitable reason to kill this coquettish old snake. She had just seen the old snake giving Gray 4 or 5 looks. Long worm, even though she is so old, she still wants to seduce her Master Gray. Mia felt a little irritable. She glanced at Gray again. Why would he be interested in these orcs? Could it be because I haven't been paying attention to him lately? But you can't blame her, she even took the initiative to write a letter to Lady Anna. Even if she hasn't received a reply from Lady Anna, she doesn't dare to move. It's so annoying, why not think about how to kill this old worm? The snake elder is thinking about how to build a relationship with this strong human being. She heard that Gray had an unusual relationship with the wolves. At that time, 2 orc tribes were still maintaining law and order in the city. I heard that Haywen is negotiating with the clan leaders of the subordinate races recently, asking them to hand over the most beautiful girls in the clan and send them to Gray to work as maids. This matter caused a great deal of fuss. The reason is that Haywen is too picky, which makes many small tribes very dissatisfied. Among them, the pig-headed people protest the most. When the snake elder thought of this, he suddenly had an idea. This human noble seems to be very interested in foreign beauties. There are not many other snake people, but there are many beautiful snakes. I just don't know if this person can accept it. The elder of the snake tribe didn't think there was anything wrong with his idea. It is normal for a weak race like them to seek shelter from the strong. Recently, there were some abnormalities in the dragon tribe in the north, which made her feel very uneasy. She was always uneasy during this period. If you can maintain a good relationship with Gray, there may be unexpected surprises. Thinking of this, the snake man elders were ready to call the most charming girls in the tribe to come over. At this time, she felt a slight chill all over. Then he looked up and saw Mia staring at her expressionlessly, looking at her from top to bottom. Occasionally his eyes would stay on her neck, waist and tail. It felt like he was sizing up where to strike. The elder snake man looked a little uncomfortable all over his body. But she is not Maggie, she is a high-level orc after all, not an intermediate magician who can be scared by just her aura. The snake elder frowned slightly. What does this human woman mean? Why does the look in her eyes make Snake so uncomfortable? The snake elder was not a soft persimmon. She looked at Mia with a smile and said, Miss, do you have any objections to me? Mia came back to her senses and realized that when she was distracted just now, her eyes might have revealed some unfriendly looks. She narrowed her eyes and was about to say something, but when she saw Gray's glance, she returned to Gray's familiar innocent and cute look. Seeing the confused look on Mia's face, Gray didn't think much. He looked at the snake elder and said, let's discuss the heating matters for your snake tribe first. Good. The snake elder was not ignorant. She didn't care about Mia's offense and quickly started talking to Gray. Probably both of them have ideas about each other, so they communicate very harmoniously. The discussion was over in almost less than an hour. The reason why it was so fast was entirely because the beautiful snake opposite basically agreed to any of Gray's proposals. Gray was in a good mood after meeting such a good client. In this case, I will let people inform you that today my people will start measuring data, and starting tomorrow, my people will start work. Gray paused again at this point. In addition, in a few days, some wolf and tauren workers may come over. You can pick them up at your place. Although Gray's little yellow hats are experts in construction, after all, their physical fitness is not as good as that of the werewolf and the head-creating man. Gray brought Little Yellow Riding Hood here not to let them do physical work, but to let them work with werewolves and minotaurs. No problem at all, the snake elder said with a smile. Gray smiled and stretched out his hand. Then I wish us a happy cooperation. I am Gray. The snake elder stretched out his hand and shook Gray's hand. It's a pleasure to cooperate, you can call me Kara. She also scratched Gray's palm. Gray remained calm on his face, but secretly he was wondering, was Kara trying to seduce him? That's really sorry, he still prefers young and perfect beauty snakes like Maggie. What? You asked him why he knew Maggie was perfect. What Kara said herself just now seemed unintentional, but in fact it was intentional. Kara doesn't mind giving her tribe members to Gray as maids, but their life here is not as good as in Gray's city. If possible, she would even send all her friends to Gray's city. This place is too close to the swamp. Once the dragon tribe makes a move, the snake tribe will be the first to suffer. Okay, Kara, let's talk about business next. Gray withdrew his hand without hesitation. This time he restrained his previous casual look and got up with a solemn expression. Kara's expression froze slightly when she heard this, and then sighed. How did you tell? Gray said calmly. You are trying too hard to please me. You know, before Haywens became a fool, he was also very unruly. The first time he and Kara met, the other party gave him a feeling of trying to please him in every possible way. Especially when talking about cooperation. As long as Gray proposes, she basically agrees. This made Gray think that he was the client for a while, and then the beautiful woman deliberately seduced him during physical contact. In addition, the snake heart juice that Kara just prepared for them is obviously extremely expensive among the snake people. A thing that can have a huge effect on the transformation of blood power. If the snake tribe is really rich enough to drink snake heart fruit as juice, then the snake tribe should at least not worry about heating. They should even be in the most fertile land. Let other races find ways to keep warm for them instead of turning to humans. Obviously, she deliberately took out the snake heart fruit to entertain the distinguished guests in her mind. After analyzing the matter to this point, it is already very clear. Turning on the heater was just a superficial reason. The real reason why Kara contacted him has not yet been revealed. Kara was silent for a moment after hearing this, and then showed a tired smile. No wonder you can build a city here and gain the support of the Wolf clan and the Tauren clan. Gray didn't speak, just looked at Kara. Kara suppressed her smile and looked at Gray seriously. Master Gray, the snake people are willing to give you their territory, resources, and wealth just like the Tauren, as long as you can let us snake people join your alliance and be protected by it. Your refuge. Kara gritted her teeth and finally decided to take a gamble. She originally wanted to seduce this young human with her beauty. But she was also afraid that she would be too smart, and not only would she fail to hook up with Gray, but she would also offend him. Plus Gray just exposed her idea directly. Kara finally decided to get straight to the point. Gray frowned slightly when he heard this. He does have thoughts about the snake people. But he also understands the truth that there is no such thing as a free lunch. The snake people begged him and were even willing to give up their territory to beg for his protection. Listening to Kara's words, he thought there was some kind of alliance between himself and the Wolf clan and the Tauren clan. Gray didn't explain anything, he just looked at Kara with some confusion. Why? He didn't believe Kara would make such a decision for no reason. Kara could only tell the truth. He mentioned the current plight of the snake people and the imminent plans of the people in the north. Gray narrowed his eyes after hearing this. You mean the dragon tribe wants to invade you? Kara nodded. Yes, I have sent people to inquire about the reasons for their frequent southward activities before, but my people did not come back after going there. 0. Oh, Kara's meaning was obvious. The dragon tribe had taken action against her people. Gray frowned. It seems that the dragon tribe does have some ideas. Why, you have been living in peace and harmony for almost 100 years, and yet they want to attack you in a safe time. Gray felt that this time was too coincidental. Just when he came here to build the city, the dragon tribe, the top 3 tyrannical race in the orc tribe, actually had a tendency to move south. Gray had to consider who their target was. He knows the truth very well. He didn't dare to bet that the dragon tribe's target was not him. It seemed that he had to do this favor. Gray made a decision, and the way he looked at Kara became different. Now that he has decided to help, he won't do it in vain. In addition, he is not only interested in the land here, he is also interested in the snake heart fruit cultivated by the snake people. This thing can not only enhance the blood power of the snake people, but also enhance the physical fitness of humans. He felt that this thing was destined to him. His soldiers were in short supply of this magical fruit. Gray stood up and looked at Kara condescendingly, his eyes turning from easygoing to cold and tough. The snake tribe is not the Tauren tribe. They are weak and seeking shelter. Naturally, Gray will not be too polite to them. Protecting them would be tantamount to opposing the dragon tribe, and he would not do such a thing just because of the land. So he said, Kara, I can accept you snake people, but I not only want your land, but also the effectiveness of your entire race. I want everything from you. If you agree, I will protect you. If the dragon people invade, I will stand in front of you, but if you don't want to, then let's break up. Gray gave his request. After saying that, he walked towards the door. I will give you 1 day to think about it. After 1 day, I will return to my city. As soon as he walked to the door, he heard Kara's cry, etc. Kara twisted her waist and slowly came to Gray. The snake people can work for you, as long as you can protect us. Chapter 71. This snake tribe asked for help, and Gray's itinerary plan changed accordingly. He immediately sent someone to notify Quentin and Hei Wen. Then he himself stayed in the snake tribe. There was no way, since Gray had promised to protect their safety, Gray would definitely do it. He spent half a day looking at the surrounding terrain and found that the valley where the snake people lived had very good terrain advantages. It was surrounded by high mountains. He only needed to guard the front and rear sides to form a pure land within it. In a place like this, it is extremely difficult to build fortifications. In addition, the mountains and forests on both sides are full of snakes that are close to the snake tribe, so there is no need to worry about the dragon tribe army being able to sneak up on them silently. In other words, it is enough to defend the passage on the side of the dragon-faced human race swamp with all your strength. Gray looked at the terrain near the mountains again. To the east is a fast-flowing river that is difficult to cross safely even by boat. 593. It can effectively cut off the enemy's detours, and the mountains on the west side are continuous all the way to the depths of the mountain forest, and there are many cliffs in the direction facing the swamp, easy to defend and difficult to attack. If the dragon tribe wants to go south, other than passing through the snake tribe, they can only go through the mountains and forests. But there are ursine and ape people there. No wonder the dragon people hang around the snake people tribe. There was no other way for them to go south, except by going around the mountains. Gray asked people to return to the city and transport all the bricks and cement. He wants to build a checkpoint here. This small place is the easiest to guard. Gray drew a simple map and then told Kara his thoughts. At the end, he looked up at the elder of the snake tribe who was still a little confused in front of him. Kara, now I have to ask you a question. If the dragon tribe goes south now, they will definitely fight us here. According to the agreement, I will send people here to resist their attack, but at the same time, I hope that you snake people will also try your best to help. But once the war breaks out, no one knows what will happen. It will definitely be unsafe here. It's okay for the snake warriors to stay here, but what are you going to do with those old, weak, women and children? Gray looked at Kara, waiting for her answer. Kara also had some struggles. It wasn't that she couldn't understand what Gray was saying. Gray hopes that she will set up her base camp in his city, or somewhere nearby. Kara would indeed do it if possible. But the thought of living with humans. There will always be some inconvenience. Disdain everyone who is friendly to them. She can trust Gray, but she doesn't want to have too much contact with other humans. Kara had some difficulties. We can find a safe place by ourselves. Upon hearing this, Gray frowned and interrupted her. Look for it yourself. Do you want to lead the tribe away from me? What if you are targeted by other orcs again? I will let Quentin and Haywen find some suitable places for you to live. Since you choose to be attached to me, I will naturally not let you be alone. After Gray finished speaking, he no longer looked at him. Instead, he turned to the soldiers on the side and said, Go and tell the workers that the preparations have stopped. First, help the snake people pack their things. They need to move. After he finished speaking, he turned back to look at Kara. What are your requests? Tell Quentin and Haywen directly when the time comes. You should know each other, so you don't need me to tell you how to communicate, right? Only then did Kara come back from her daze. Looking at Gray's young but extremely determined face, she couldn't help but feel her heartbeat speed up. Gray's domineering style of doing things just now was something she hadn't encountered in a long time. This feeling can only be felt when one is young and is protected by the strong men of the clan around him. This decisive and domineering attitude that could not be rejected gave her a sense of security that she had not felt for a long time. She took a deep breath and nodded. I understand. After saying that, she was a little curious. Don't you really need to discuss it with them? Orcs have a strong sense of territoriality, even if you are allies with them. Before she could finish her words, Gray interrupted her again with a strange expression. What are you talking about? Who told you that they are my allies? Gray's words made Kara stunned again. Not an ally. What is that? Gray thought that Kara was already one of his own, so he didn't bother to hide it, and said directly, although the Wolf Clan and I have a community of interests, I can influence 80% of their people. In addition, that old guy Quentin and I are friends. As long as I speak, he will always give me some face, even if he doesn't give me face, others will. As for Haywen, he was defeated and fell into my hands. He used all his land and wealth in exchange for the chance to survive. Now because of the Silver Holy Beast, he listens to my words very much. There is no difference between the entire Tauren clan and my vassals. To put it simply, I control them by controlling their interests. So the alliance relationship does not exist. Whether it is the Wolf tribe or the Tauren tribe, they are all asking for something from me, so they will not refuse my request. Compared to allies, they are more like my vassals. You just take a strong stance. That night, after packing their luggage, the snake people began their Chengyao migration. On the way, they encountered orcs who came from the Tauren tribe and the werewolf tribe and obeyed Gray's orders. Seeing the group of orcs traveling day and night, just to reach Gray as soon as possible, Kara completely believed Gray's words. Gray and the two orc tribes are not allies at all. Rather, one party controls the other. Thinking about Kara made her scalp tingle. It is hard to imagine that the young man who was still chatting and laughing with her during the day, and even stared at her lustfully for a time, was a ruthless character who could turn his hands into clouds and rain. How long has Gray been here? 2 months, 3 months. But what did he do? Not only did he control the powerful Wolf tribe and Tauren tribe, but he also controlled the Snake People tribe. What a terrible guy, Kara thought to herself. Luckily she was on his side. At the same time, in the valley where the snake tribe was originally located, Gray was looking at the seeds in his hand. This is a snake heart fruit seed left to him by the snake people. According to the description of the snake people, the snake heart fruit is an extremely delicate plant. They will grow up under the careful care of the snake people. During their growth, they need to regularly add the blood of the snake people. And this magic plant has high energy requirements. When the snake tribe chose this place, not only because the temperature here is warmer than other places and is a good place to grow snake nuts, but also because I have more energy here. It is good for the growth of snake heart fruit. Gray originally planned to let the snake people work for him and vigorously cultivate the snake heart fruit. Unexpectedly, Carla actually told him that because the snake heart fruit is too delicate, it will easily wither when it is half grown. So no matter how hard they try, the result rate of snake heart fruit is about the same. Gradually, they no longer expected a bumper harvest of snakeheads. They also advised Gray not to think too much about beauty. If the snake heart fruit grows at an alarming rate and likes to bear fruit on the spot, then the snake tribe can't ask Gray for anything, and they can defeat the dragon tribe on their own. Gray therefore asked for a seed, wanting to see for himself how delicate a seed like this could be. Gray followed the planting steps left by Carla and first found a warm and fertile land. After planting the seeds, he watered the snake man blood left by Kara, and then went back to rest. Early the next morning, after Gray settled the people from the wolf tribe and the Tauren tribe who had arrived, he went to the place where he planted snake nuts yesterday. When he saw it, he was stunned. The vitality of yesterday's seeds was much less than yesterday. It even gave Gray the feeling that he was about to die suddenly. Gray was shocked. No, is this so cruel? It's only the first day. No, it's only been one night, and the seeds are quickly withering. Gray looked at the surrounding land. This is where the snake people used to cultivate snake heart fruits. The location is no problem. There is no problem with the blood of the snake people. There is no problem if you follow the planting process given by the snake tribe. So what happens? Is this guy already at the point of recognizing someone? Gray dug out the seeds and held them in his hand. He squinted his eyes to observe. The snake heart fruit has an effect on him, and it also has an effect on ordinary soldiers. If it can be planted in large quantities, the physical fitness of his soldiers will be greatly improved. He wanted to get this thing no matter what. Speaking of which, I wonder if there are similar things between the Wolf clan and the Tauren clan. This kind of good thing that can transform the power of their blood cannot only be possessed by the snake people. The Orc kingdom was so glorious in the past, and the 8 major tribes now were all prominent races in the Orc kingdom at that time. They must have left behind treasures similar to the snake heart fruits of the snake people. Well, I'll ask the people from the Wolf tribe and the Tauren tribe later. Gray suppressed this idea and now had to solve the problem of snake core fruit. I said, if you look at it like this, it won't take root. You are not a snake human being, and you can't plant it without the aura of the snake human clan. A slightly lazy voice sounded in Gray's ear. Gray's pupils shrank slightly, he just didn't notice anyone around him at all. He turned around and saw a person wearing dark clothes of unknown material. The clothes were full of tattered holes and had a lot of dirt, plant branches and leaves stuck to them. Her purple hair is slightly dry and messy, and her face is even more dirty. Judging from her majestic features, she is a woman. Of course the sound can also be heard. But everyone knows that sounds can be deceiving, and Gray is used to confirming the facts with his eyes. After careful confirmation, Gray looked away. So evil and huge. Hey, you guy, isn't it too rude to keep staring in front of others? The purple-haired woman squinted her beautiful purple pupils, and there was a faint dangerous aura about her body. Gray raised his eyebrows. Magician. The purple-haired woman snorted. She glanced at Gray's iconic aristocratic attire, then at the magic sword on his waist, and showed a disdainful smile. It's you disgusting guys again, let me teach you a lesson. The purple-haired magician just waved his hand, and the sand around him quickly gathered, forming a long whip and slammed it towards Gray. Not only did Gray not dodge, but his eyes lit up. This magician gave him a different feeling than Mia. She has no fixed way of operating her mental power, nor does she use her mental power to control elemental attacks in a rigid manner. Even the way she uses her mental powers is completely different from Mia. Her mental power is like her other arm, freely and flexibly controlling the surrounding mud. She did all this without mobilizing the earth element at all. Gray found this new way of utilizing mental power interesting. Gray refused to dodge. The moment before the mud whip touched him, Gray's fighting spirit formed a barrier and easily blocked the attack. The purple-haired woman looked slightly shocked, her eyes were full of Gray, and there was some doubt and uncertainty. Are you a warrior? Gray smiled. As you can see. The purple-haired woman was surprised and soon showed an excited look. There was a dangerous light in her eyes, as if she had seen some fun toy. Probably out of excitement and curiosity, her voice became charming and seductive. Interesting little guy, I just happen to be very angry and need to vent my anger. I hope you can be stronger and let me have a good time. By the way, I can see what secrets you have and can shield me from my exploration. She licked her lips, and the temperature around her began to rise rapidly. In Gray's surprised eyes, a purple flame emerged from her body. Gray looked at the magician's operation in surprise. Although elemental magicians can control the power of elements, it is also magic formed by mental power outside the body. But just now he saw the woman in front of him and took out a ball of flame from her body. From a distance, Gray could see the scorching heat of the purple flames. In an instant, he understood that this was no ordinary flame. Even with fire element magic, it would be difficult to condense a flame with such a high temperature. Even Gray can feel the danger of this kind of flame. He feels that even with his own body, it is difficult to block this kind of flame. He doesn't understand how this female magician can use her body as a container. The female magician saw the surprise and confusion in Gray's eyes. A proud smile appeared on her lips. "Little guy, you seem to know something about magic. You are lucky to be able to see my hottest flame." As she spoke, she raised her arm slightly, and the purple fire in her hand quickly rose into the sky like a goddess scattering flowers and then turned into little sparks. Under Gray's gaze, the surrounding fire element swept wildly, and then the sparks instantly turned into a huge inner ultraviolet red flame. In an instant, Gray fell into the sea of fire. The extremely high temperature made Gray feel that all the water in his body was evaporating rapidly. Gray had to use dochi to attach a dochi film to the surface of his body. At the same time, the pores on Gray's body began to shrink, minimizing the damage caused to him by the high-temperature environment. At the same time he began to move. The corners of the purple-haired woman's mouth rose slightly. Her whole body was surrounded by countless flames, making her completely invulnerable. Her flame is no ordinary thing, even a high-level warrior can block it. "Is it too late to think about close combat now?" She said it calmly, but her tone was full of confidence. She was confident that no matter how fast Gray reacted, she could be one step faster. Gray didn't speak. He just took a deep breath, then stepped on the ground suddenly, leaving a deep hole on the spot like a normal cannonball. The next moment, he appeared in front of the female magician. A trace of surprise and disbelief flashed in the female magician's eyes. "Senior warrior." She quickly calmed down. "What about that? But what kind of warrior is she? As long as she is not the ultimate warrior, she cannot stop her flames." Her eyes became serious, and the surrounding flames rushed towards Gray like poisonous snakes. "Just let me catch you without any hesitation." The female magician controlled the flames to drown Gray. She smiled victoriously. Then the smile on her face froze. Because she saw an incredible picture. The purple flames swept around Gray, but they were unable to harm Gray. Instead, they were constantly countered by the red gold flames around Gray to offset her purple flames. The female magician's eyes widened as she watched Gray walk out of the sea of fire unscathed, and then watched as her purple fire was suppressed by his red gold flame. The sea of fire in front of her was forcibly separated by a path of red gold flames. "What the hell?" The female magician's face changed drastically, and the next moment, Gray's fist was getting bigger and bigger in her sight. Boom! Gray looked at the female magician who blocked his fist with her slender palm in surprise. Gray didn't hesitate and continued to punch. This female magician gave him a completely different feeling from Mia. In just a short time, she kept surprising him. As a magician, she could actually block her fist. Although Gray adjusted his strength when he shot, he was too interested in this sloppy guy. If he guessed correctly, this magician was most likely one of those legendary high tower magicians who were always mysterious, hiding in some unknown corner. But magicians are magicians after all. They are not warriors, and they do not temper their bodies every day like warriors. The body is their shortcoming. Even if Gray didn't use all his strength, she should theoretically be knocked down by Gray directly. The female magician showed a sneer. "Put away your surprise, not all magicians are weak and useless." The female magician suddenly raised her leg, and her long leg hit Gray's blocking arm with terrifying wind pressure. A wave of energy spread from the two of them. The surrounding area suddenly became dusty. The female magician cursed the monster secretly, then quickly stepped back. She took out a black book from the storage ring. In an instant, Gray felt that his movements had become extremely slow, as if something invisible was restraining his hands and feet. He felt as if the magnetic field around him had become different. This slowed him down, and the female magician successfully distanced himself from his original pursuit. The magic book is suspended above the palm of the female magician's left hand, and a faint magic power is flowing on it. The changes in Gray's body should be caused by that book. Gray stopped pursuing. At the same time, the female magician discovered that a figure appeared on her left and right rear at the same time. It's Mia and Akiba. After the two felt the fluctuations in the battle, they felt this place immediately. At the same time, the two also saw Gray confronting a strange woman. And the flames that swept across the battlefield and scorched the land. Mia's eyes widened. She looked at the purple flames and red gold flames that were entangled and obliterated in the battlefield. She felt the terrifying temperature inside, and her whole body became numb. What kind of magic is this? She couldn't create such a flame. Even her teacher in the magic school might not be able to figure it out. Also, why can Gray's flames reach such a level now? There is no doubt that one of the two flames must be Gray's. Mia felt Gray's aura in the red gold flame. But isn't Gray a junior magician? This kind of large-scale flame cannot be summoned by a junior magician. Mia glanced at Gray with a complicated expression. She felt that she had been cheated, but now was not the time to talk about this, she could only help first. Mia raised the magic wand in her hand, and the next moment, a magic circle appeared behind her, and streams of water turned into water arrows and headed towards the purple-haired woman. At the same time, behind the water arrows, there were several invisible wind blades. As for the other side, Chuya is not idle either. She has now entered the state of animal transformation, her limbs have turned into sharp claws, and her physical strength has been greatly enhanced. She was already close to the level of an elite warrior among the orcs. After her last transformation, her strength jumped to the level of a leader among the orcs. Think of human mid-level warriors. But if you really want to calculate it, the commander-level orcs are stronger than ordinary human mid-level warriors. Because orcs are physically stronger than humans. After transforming into a beast, Chuya did not rush forward immediately. The flame temperature on the battlefield is too high, which is not friendly to melee combat workers like her. Lines of white frost appeared on her body, and at the same time, she exhaled a breath of white cold air, and the temperature began to drop rapidly with her as the center. The female mage already had a headache when facing Gray, but now two powerful women suddenly appeared, and she was even more unhappy now. TCH. If I had known it was so troublesome, I wouldn't have played any more. The purple-haired woman frowned. Mia and Chuya posed little threat to her, but she had to be distracted to deal with their attacks. Mia's attack came first, but the purple-haired woman ignored it at all. Academic boy, you haven't even touched the true threshold of magic. You just imitate it, which is just a waste of time. The fire snake spinning around her completely submerged the water arrows in an instant. At the same time, the wall of flames blocked Mia's wind blade, and also easily resisted Chu Yi's ice element attack. You, a little werewolf, can actually use elemental magic. Although you are still very immature, it is indeed magic. The purple-haired woman's curiosity seemed to be aroused again. She stared at Chuya with curious eyes. It's really strange, orcs can actually use magic, how do they do this? Chuya bared his teeth at her and once again mobilized the ice element in an attempt to compete with the purple flame. I didn't expect that I actually met two interesting guys this time. Are they both yours? The purple-haired woman said with a smile on her face. Even if she was besieged by 3 people, she didn't seem to care at all. She was very confident in her own strength. Gray nodded. They are my people. Purple-haired woman. Great, as long as I deal with you, you and the female werewolf will be mine, and I will enslave you. Gray looked calm. Let's wait until you beat me. After Gray finished speaking, he disappeared instantly. The purple-haired woman's pupils shrank, and a purple barrier appeared in front of her. At the same time, Gray's fist smashed the barrier. The female magician had already distanced herself again. She looked at Gray with a horrified look on her face. Impossible. How can you still be so fast? I have clearly cast a slow spell on you. Gray smiled when he heard this. Your magic is very strong, and it took me a while to crack it. He was indeed trapped by the sudden magic just now. But he soon discovered that his condition was related to the magnetic field. This surprised him very much. He felt that this was the real magic. Magic was definitely not limited to the direction of elements, and it was not simply rubbing fireballs. This kind of manipulation of magnetism is also magic, intangible and of great use to the country. Then as Gray struggled and used his mental power to perceive, he soon discovered the connection and resonance between the other party's mental power and magnetism. Gray tried to imitate. It was a bit difficult. It took him 2 or 3 attempts to imitate it almost, and then he watched as he imitated on the spot and cracked the opponent's magic. Of course, he can only crack it. If he really wants to learn and completely master that magical magic, Gray must study it seriously. This made him even more interested in this female magician. He had never used the magic sword because he was afraid that if he didn't hold it, it would be broken by the female magician. But after fighting for so long, he probably felt the strangeness of this female magician. She was not a crispy magician. In this case, he has to take it seriously. He wants to catch this female magician and see how many other methods this female magician has. In addition, he is also quite interested in the slavery magic that the female magician mentioned. The purple-haired magician's big eyes widened even more when he heard Gray say that he had cracked his magic. She didn't believe Gray's words at all, but Gray's current speed made her believe it. Her face became completely serious, and she stared at Gray. "I must catch you and study carefully what kind of monster you are." Gray smiled, and he drew out the magic sword. "What a coincidence, we have the same idea." After speaking, Gray approached the female magician again. The female magician's face was solemn, and the pages of the magic book in her hand were turning. The next moment, magic arrays lit up above the female magician's head. 1, 2, 3. Mia counted until she reached 12 magic circles, and she discovered that there were still magic circles forming on the opposite side. She secretly cursed a monster. Although these madmen from the Tower sect may not be very smart sometimes, they have to admit that they are so powerful. Everything happens in an instant. The moment the magic circle formed all over the sky, Gray happened to sprint again. The ground shook violently, and tentacle-like thrusts pierced Gray at various incredible angles, but Gray easily dodged them. Purple flames and red gold flames intertwined. Countless flints fell from the sky. Gray's area was instantly covered. The purple-haired magician was not satisfied with this. She is extremely aware of Gray's power, and she will use all means this time to defeat Gray completely. The next moment, stone figures made of stone and iron sand rose up from the ground and rushed into the dust. Boom boom boom. The earth seemed to be shaken by this amazing battle. Mia and Chuya couldn't get close to the battlefield at all. They could only try their best to distract the purple-haired woman. For the rest, we can only rely on Gray. Gray was extremely excited now. In the dust, he felt the blood in his body begin to boil. For the first time, he pushed his physical strength and fighting spirit to the limit. At the same time, countless magic formations were also formed around him. Various elemental magics, fireballs, ice arrows, wind blades, water cannons and other magics quickly formed and flew out in magic arrays, crushing the surrounding ground thorns and stone men. Gray rushed out of the encirclement of the ground thorns and stone men. The corners of the female magician's eyes twitched, but she remained calm. Although the magnetic magic is ineffective against Gray, she still has a powerful attack magic, which is enough to deal with Gray. "I don't believe that you, a human being, can have more power than a giant." The next moment, a huge summoning magic circle appeared in front of her, and a huge figure appeared. Howly how, at the same time, a giant axe struck Gray hard. Gray's expression froze when he saw the huge figure, but he did not retreat. Instead, he roared and swung his sword to meet him. On his long sword, red gold flames surged crazily, and finally turned into golden flames and collided with the giant axe. Boom! The huge force of the collision shook the entire valley. The next moment, Gray and the huge figure retreated at the same time. Gray stepped back tens of meters and stood still, and the huge figure's body began to collapse, and the arms holding the giant axe were completely shattered by the huge force. Cracks appeared all over the body. The sorceress opened her mouth. "How is that possible? This is the body of a giant that I found after searching across half of the continent. Are you a human being?" She couldn't believe that her trump card was evenly matched with Gray in terms of strength. Gray sneered, spat out a mouthful of blood, and rushed towards the female magician with his sword in hand. The female magician retreated in horror. After her second attempt to cast magnetic magic failed, she gave in decisively. "Wait, I surrender." The female magician raised her hands in the air and praised. She was really shocked by Gray's fighting ability. Gray kept walking towards her without stopping. The female magician panicked and wanted to run away. She wasn't even prepared to take the giant's body. It's just that the fierce battle just now consumed her too much. So she didn't run away. Gray grabbed him by the collar and then gave him a beating. Ahem. Gray coughed up a mouthful of blood, and Chuya on the side quickly wiped his mouth with a handkerchief and then fed Gray a bottle of secret healing medicine. His movements were gentle and careful, and his eyes were full of heartache. But she was also shocked by the battle just now. Shocked by Gray's power. Especially at the end, when Gray and the giant go head to head. Chuya felt that his heart couldn't help but speed up again. She was born into the orc tribe and was born to worship the strong. She had remembered Gray's name a few months ago when Gray defeated her brother. Then when Gray appeared in the tribe with a large amount of food, she discovered that this powerful man had a gentle heart. After that, I couldn't help but want to pay attention to Gray's information. She watched Gray's city grow from scratch, and watched Gray lead the wolf clan to become rich. For Chuya, Gray is the real strong one. Now she came to Gray's true power again, and the throbbing in her heart was like a tide, starting to spread crazily. Mia, who was treating Gray's wounds, glared at Gray. What were you thinking just now? That's a giant. Although he is dead and only has a decaying body left, he claims to have the power of a dragon. Even if the giant has only 1/10 of his strength left, you should not confront him head on. That is to say, your body is strong and you are on a par with the opponent. If your body strength is a little worse, then you. Mia's voice lowered as she spoke. She was really frightened just now when she was 20 years old. She never imagined that Gray would confront the giant head on. If something happens to Gray, she couldn't imagine what the consequences would be. She felt scared just thinking about it. She suddenly felt that she didn't actually have to wait for the Earl's consent. Hearing Mia's crying words, Gray scratched his head, and then took out a toffee from the space ring. How about some candy? Gray pushed the candy in front of Mia. Mia pouted and said nothing. Gray thought for a while, peeled the candy, and then brought it to Mia's mouth. Mia snorted. You know how to coax me with candy. But she still couldn't hold back. She opened her mouth to eat the candy, and at the same time her lips and little tongue touched Gray's finger. Gray smiled, then looked at Chuya aside. Although Chuya was her maid, because the two of them were involved in a physical relationship, she also popped out a fruit candy, tore off the outer paper, and put the fruit candy into the maid's mouth. How to say, one is softer than the other. After Gray's side was bandaged, he stood up and walked towards the purple-haired magician who was hung up on the other side. The purple-haired female magician who was swaying in the wind suddenly became frightened. Her face had been beaten into a pig's head. Gray's call. There is no other reason than that he feels that this magician is too unruly. He actually wanted to enslave him. Today he must show off his enslavement skills and then enslave the other party. I finally met a wild magician, one from the Tower sect. Can he let him go? Give you a chance to reveal the slavery magic, and I will let you down. Gray looked at the female magician and said. Because the wounds on his body needed to be bandaged, Gray did not wear a shirt. His strong body and chiseled muscle lines made the female magician take time to swallow in fear. I can tell you, but if you want to enslave me, I advise you to forget it. Although your mental power is strong, it is at the level of an intermediate magician at most. I only reached it a few years ago. Intermediate magician. And I already have the mental power of a high-level magician. The gap between us is too big, and you can't enslave me. The purple-haired female magician said with a relaxed expression. Gray frowned when he heard this. Leave it to me first. If there is any problem, I will beat you to death. The female magician curled her lips. You can't enslave me even if you beat me to death. Gray. Ha! The female magician immediately shrank her neck. What she had experienced just now was the first time she had been beaten so badly since she had achieved some achievements in magic. She was really afraid that Gray would beat her again. After handing over the enslavement magic to Gray, the female magician breathed a sigh of relief when she saw Gray starting to think deeply. Fortunately, even if enslavement magic can only enslave existences that are similar to or stronger than yourself, it is still a high-level magic. The average magician would not be able to get in within 10 days and half a month if he wanted to learn. It's also difficult to truly master. But this magic is indeed very easy to use. Just as she was thinking, Gray suddenly looked up and looked at her. Don't move, I'll try to enslave you first. Female magician. Wait a moment. As soon as she spoke, Gray had already activated his mental power and directly began to invade her mind. The female magician gritted her teeth and used all her mental strength to defend herself so Gray wouldn't take advantage of her. Gray was indeed in some trouble. Fortunately, Gray is a problem solver. He put the female magician down and beat her again. Then the female magician fainted, and Gray's mental power easily entered her mind. But even so, with the senior magician's mental power passive, Tien blocked his enslavement mark from his mind. After being forcibly enslaved several times, the female magician woke up again because her mind was invaded by other people's spiritual power. Stop, you can't enslave me. Do not talk nonsense. Gray punched the female magician until she rolled her eyes, and then continued to enslave her. After a while, the female magician woke up again. She stared at Gray in horror. You. Boom. Gray retracted his hand and continued the operation. When the female magician woke up for the third time, she could only stare wide-eyed, shed helpless tears, and then fell into coma again. After many experiments, it was found that there was really no way to enslave this powerful magician using normal enslavement skills. So Gray decided to cheat. He recalled the feeling of contracting with Taiya brother and sister. Then I thought about the content of enslavement magic. He felt that since he could use ordinary contract magic combined with his own special power to mutate Iron Bull into a silver holy beast. Then if he uses slavery magic to add his own power. Gray once again cast enslavement magic. This time, as soon as he thought about it, a wisp of spiritual power with some special power floated into the female magician's mind. The next moment, the unconscious female magician's body suddenly twitched, and a mysterious rune began to appear on her forehead. Soon the rune was completed, and the painful female magician slowly opened her eyes. She was stunned at first, and then found in despair that she was enslaved by Gray. The female magician covered her chin with a look of resentment. Master, you are too cruel. Gray looked at the female magician whose attitude had changed 180 degrees, and felt a little emotional in his heart. The enslavement skill is really useful. After successfully enslaving the female magician will not be able to betray Gray, or even have any thoughts of harming Gray. Once violated, she will be punished directly to the soul. Of course, Gray can also directly touch the soul of the female magician. Gray was very satisfied with this skill. He glanced at the female magician. What is your name and what are you doing here? After fighting for a long time, I enslaved the other party and still didn't know her name. Now that I'm free, I can finally ask. The female magician replied in a low voice. My name is Laura, and I am here looking for the Tree of Life. Gray was a little surprised. Tree of Life. This name sounds related to elves. Laura rolled her eyes. Who in the entire continent doesn't know that the elves were born from the roots of the giant Tree of Life? The Tree of Life is a treasure that the elves regrown by watering the spring of life with the roots of the giant Tree of Life. Gray was silent for a moment, forgiving that he really hadn't heard of it. But he soon said, You mean, elves once lived here? Laura nodded. According to the records of some magicians, there was indeed a tribe of elves living here once, and the deep pit over there was where the Tree of Life took root. Gray raised his eyebrows. Isn't there a volcano down there? Laura glanced at Gray with some surprise. Yes, the Tree of Life likes to absorb energy in the magma and then feed it back to the ground. It is said that the Doomsday volcano in the far west of the continent was once the place where the giant Tree of Life took root. After hearing this, Gray's heart moved. Then have you found it? Laura shook her head and nodded. Gray frowned when he saw it. Have you found it? You don't have a mouth to speak. When Laura was scolded by Gray, she immediately shrank her neck. I didn't find any branches or roots, but I thought of a green leaf deep down, which looks like it should be a leaf from the Tree of Life. Gray, you said you found leaves under the ground. No roots. Gray felt something was wrong. There were no roots deep underground, but leaves. But Laura will not favor him because of the mark of slavery. Where are the leaves? Take them out and let me have a look. I'll help you identify them. Gray shamelessly stretched out his hand and prepared to rob his men. Laura twitched the corner of her mouth, took a deep breath, calmed down her heart, and then said expressionlessly, It's in the magma. It hasn't been taken out yet. There is something wrong with the magma here. It has no energy, but it can burn through me very quickly. Magical shield. I couldn't cool down the magma even with magic. I tried many methods but couldn't get past it. I had to come up and prepare again. Having said this, Laura looked at Gray with resentful eyes. Then I met you growing snake heart fruits. Only then did Gray remember the snake heart fruit. The hit was too sudden, so he put the seeds into his storage ring. Now that I think about it, I naturally want to take it out and take a look. Did you just say that the snake heart fruit must be grown by the snake people? Gray put everything else aside for now. The snake heart fruit issue is what he wants to solve the most right now. Laura. Of course, Master, the snake heart fruit is originally a top resource cultivated by the Orc Kingdom after consuming a lot of resources. It has a huge improvement effect on the snake people. As for other creatures, the effect is much worse. Quote. Of course, the most important thing is that the senior leaders of the snake people in the Orc Kingdom at that time used the technology at that time to bind the snake people and the snake heart fruit together. No one except the snake people could grow the snake heart fruit. Neither can their other races of orcs. This is to prevent the decline of the kingdom and prevent the snake heart fruits from being snatched away by other races after the decline of the snake people. It seems that what they did is correct. Anyway, many people know about the existence of snake heart fruit, but no one is interested in it because they know that they can't grow it. Gray's heart sank when he heard this. He was still thinking about planting snake nuts to strengthen his soldiers. Now hearing Laura say this, he suddenly became unhappy. Is there no way to solve this problem? Besides, since the snake heart fruit is bound to the snake people, why did I hear the elders of the snake people say that it is difficult for them to cultivate the snake heart fruit themselves? Is it possible that she is lying to me? Gray squinted his eyes, a trace of murderous intent flashing in his eyes. Laura shook her head. That's not true. This is a general characteristic of top-level magic potions. However, top-level magic materials must be scarce in quantity. This involves the magic network theory. There is only so much energy in the world, and each top-level magic potion must be scarce. Plants consume huge amounts of energy. When the energy is constant, if one of the top plants grows, other magic plants will be affected. The snake tribe grows snake fruits at a high density. When many snake fruits reach half of their growth, they will choose to turn them into fertilizers to provide nutrients for the remaining fruits due to insufficient energy supply. When Laura mentioned professional knowledge, she immediately lost the timid look she had just shown. Seeing her talk, eloquent, and knowledgeable, Gray knew that this fight was not in vain. In addition, I have to say that the tower magicians are really strong. That is to say, Gray is a freak, and everyone else, not to mention a high-level warrior, even a few more will die. Looking at Laura's appearance, as long as you ignore her swollen appearance like a pig's head, bruised nose and face, messy hair, tattered clothes, and skin that has turned black from not taking a shower for who knows how long, she still has the temperament of a magic master. After hearing what she said, Gray immediately sighed. In other words, the snake heart fruit can only be cultivated in a small batch at a time. Is there no way to achieve large-scale mass production? Laura nodded in affirmation. But soon she hesitated and said, it's not that there is no way at all. There is still a leaf from the tree of life under our feet that can be used. Although it is just a leaf, it is part of the tree of life after all, and the life energy contained in it should be enough to support a batch of seeds to blossom and bear fruit. This only solves a batch. This is a one-time event and cannot be sustained for a long time. Gray glanced at her. Are you willing to give me the leaves of the tree of life that you worked so hard to find? Laura shrugged helplessly. Who makes you my master? As long as you need it, I can give you anything, including myself. Gray looked at her bruised face and looked away silently. In order not to attack this new subordinate, Gray planned to continue studying the snake nut. Seeing Gray still staring at the snake nut seeds, Laura suddenly said, Master, do you want to try the power in your body? Gray was stunned when he heard this. He spoke with some uncertainty. Will it be useful? His kind of power has only been used on animals, orcs, and humans. He was sure that his power could work on animals, but he never thought about it working on plants. Laura's eyes suddenly shone. Master, just try it once, just in case you succeed. Laura rubbed her hands excitedly. She had taken out all kinds of strange things from her storage ring, including crystal balls, notebooks, photo crystals, some slates, and metal rulers. She even pulled out a pair of thin, clean leather gloves. If she hadn't held the scalpel, the way she looked at Gray would have made him feel like he was about to be pushed into the dissecting room. This is not about studying the snake heart fruit, the crazy lady wants to study him. Gray clenched his fists, and he hooked his fingers at Laura. Laura, come here. Laura walked forward with a smile. Boom. Ouch. Laura was soon lying on the ground. When she woke up again, she was much more restrained. But although she didn't continue to look at Gray blatantly, she still couldn't help but look secretly. That look made her want to drag Gray into her tower right away and lock her up to study every day. Gray didn't pay much attention to Laura's gaze. He did have some secrets in his body. He was very curious about them, not to mention Laura, a tower magician who was born as a cat and was extremely curious. If she didn't have such a strong curiosity, she wouldn't be able to become a magician of the tower sect. When Laura was ready, Gray began to use the power in his body to affect the seeds in his hands. Although he doesn't like to be studied, it is undeniable that the magicians of the tower sect are really the best scientific researchers in the world. There is a magician from the High Tower sect assisting him, which is of great help to him in observing and cultivating snake heart fruits. Soon, Gray's spiritual power entered the seeds with a hint of mysterious power. The next moment, golden light began to spread from the inside out in the snake heart fruit seeds. The golden light shuttled inside the seed, and when it reached the surface of the seed, it left golden lines on the seed. Laura stared with wide eyes. The photo crystal on one side was recording images, and she also quickly looked at various numbers on the stone slabs and metal bars next to them, and then recorded them. Then she used her mental power to sense the condition of the seeds and record them. Finally, when the seeds stopped changing, she immediately touched them with a small metal bar. The next moment, she said in surprise, "Master, the life of the seeds has been greatly enhanced. Your power has worked. How about we plant it and try it?" Gray didn't speak. He felt very strange now. He felt as if the seed in his hand was breathing. It also seems eager to take root. Yes, Gray can feel its emotions. Gray felt that he still underestimated his own power. According to the mood of the seed, he planted the seed where it felt most comfortable. Then the seeds take root and sprout rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. This not only stunned Gray, but also Lauren on the side. She quickly used her mental power to sense the changes in the seeds. What a vital seed, it is absorbing the surrounding energy. Laura quickly recorded the changes in the seed. This has far exceeded the growth rate of normal magic plants. Compared with the top magic plants, this seed has completed the growth of about 3 weeks in just a while, and this briskness is still accelerating. Wait, impossible, how is this possible? This seed absorbs the surrounding energy too fast. Laura looked with some astonishment at a white light spot floating on a metal bar next to her. The higher the light spot above, the faster the surrounding energy flows. When magic plants grow, this kind of metal equipment is usually used to test the efficiency of the plants in absorbing the surrounding energy. Under normal circumstances, this metal strip is enough to detect the efficiency of a top-level magic plant. But today, for the first time, Laura saw that her device was about to reach its upper limit. There is only one plant here. Laura looked at the metal bar in her hand in disbelief, watching it reach the critical value. Then she quickly put it into the space ring. She didn't need it to measure the energy flow around her, she could already feel it herself. The seeds have completely turned into green sprouts, and then grown into a plant half as tall as a person. Then it blooms quickly and bears fruit. All this happened as if in fast-forward video. Everyone in Gray was dumbfounded. By the time they react, the fruits on the plant are already ripe. Gray roughly counted 9 fruits. When the fruit completes its growth, the plant absorbs energy from the surroundings at a rapid rate, and finally drops to the point where it only needs to maintain the nutrition of the fruit. Gray looked at the red fruit in front of him, turned to the confused Laura and asked, "Have you seen the snake heart fruit?" Although Gray has drunk the juice of snake heart fruit, he has never seen snake heart fruit. He wasn't sure if it was still a snake nut or not. After all, he had already transformed the seeds before. What exactly it was transformed into, Gray didn't know. His power can indeed affect plants, but he himself is not sure how much influence his power has on plants. At that time, Gray just wanted a snake nut that could be grown quickly, efficiently and in large quantities. Because he had heard Laura talk about the ins and outs of the snake heart fruit before, Gray felt that it would be better if the snake heart fruit could be turned into a fruit that was more beneficial to humans. Then the seeds become plants that grow very quickly and bear fruit very quickly. Laura squatted aside and observed for a long time, and then looked a little strange. It is no longer a snake heart fruit. To be precise, its essence has not changed. It is just like the Orc Kingdom cultivated snake heart fruits from the beginning. It was cultivated on the basis of a top-level plant, and you just changed it into its original appearance. Gray felt a little headache after hearing this. He summed it up. In other words, I removed the things that the Orc Kingdom added to the snake heart fruit. This thing may not have any effect on the snake people in the future, but it has no effect on other races. Better, right? Laura nodded. Master, you are so smart. You understood it immediately. Gray rolled his eyes, grabbed Laura, then pulled off a fruit and stuffed it into her mouth. After waiting for a while, he found that Laura was still alive and well, and even her injuries had recovered to some extent. Gray then called Mia and Chuya over and gave them one each. And he took one himself. The fruit has a fruity aroma, sweet taste and excellent taste. After the pulp entered his abdomen, Gray immediately felt a strong force strengthening his body. Gray even felt part of the force traveling between his eyes, ears, mouth, nose and other 5 senses, which was strengthening his body, facial features. Unfortunately, Gray's body has reached a very high level now, so this energy collar has not improved Gray's body too much. Gray recalled that when he ate snake heart nuts, his fighting spirit was completely different from now. Gray understands that these are some of the shortcomings caused by modified seeds. This fruit grows quickly, bears a lot of fruit, and can strengthen the human body, but this fruit has lost the ability to enhance Gray's fighting spirit. There are gains and losses, but Gray doesn't feel any dissatisfaction. On the contrary, he felt happy. There are still snake heart fruits in the snake tribe, and at the speed at which he cultivates fighting chi, it doesn't make much difference whether he has the snake heart fruit or not. And this kind of fruit that can enhance the combat effectiveness of his soldiers is what he needs most. After putting away all the remaining fruits, Gray looked at the plant, which was still green and still seemed to be full of vitality. He fell into silence. Because he sensed the plant's thoughts. I'm so tired, I want to die. Gray stared at the plant for a while, then stood up and pulled out the sword. This plant is undoubtedly a hero. It made Gray understand that his own power also has a huge effect on plants. Gray originally wanted to transplant it to his own city. But since it wanted to die, Gray thought it would be better to grant it a wish. Maybe there were flaws in the previous transformation, which made the plant miserable. In this case, he might as well let it go as soon as possible. It can be regarded as a reward for it. Master Gray, what are you doing? Mia was a little confused as to why Gray wanted to draw his sword from such a precious plant. Could it be that Master Gray wants to destroy it? The other 2 women also looked stunned. They didn't understand Gray's thoughts, so they could only persuade him. Gray didn't care what the women said. He just suddenly heard the plant yelling in terror, "Master, don't kill me. I just complained. I don't want to die yet." Gray's movements suddenly froze, and then he slowly retracted his sword. Seeing Gray sheathing her sword, the other 3 women breathed a sigh of relief. Gray called 2 soldiers here to look at the plant, because the name of this plant is not yet known. Gray randomly chose the name of the Constitution tree. The origin of the name is naturally because it can enhance physical fitness. As for the fruit, it is also called the Constitution fruit, and the name is simple and easy to understand. After doing this, Gray turned his attention to the giant bones on the side. He looked at the corpse in front of him curiously. The corpse seemed to be 10 meters high, and he could clearly see the power in front of it. But now, it is covered in light green, and I don't know what method Laura used to maintain part of the body's strength. Gray set his sights on Laura, and now it was time to hear Laura's experience, how she refined a giant that had not been active on the mainland for a long time into a puppet. How did she find this body? Gray walked to the giant's bones. The huge corpse had been severely damaged. Gray could even see that the bones had sutures and some skeletal skin that were obviously not corpses. Obviously, Laura spent a lot of energy repairing the bones after finding them. But even so, the power exerted by the corpse just now caused Gray to suffer some injuries. This is the first time Gray has been injured since he started practicing. He is very interested in the corpse and Laura's magic to control it. Gray looked at the giant's bones and asked with some curiosity, "What kind of magic is this?" "Undead magic that controls corpses." Laura waved her hand after hearing this. "Not really, the essence of undead magic is to enslave the soul. I only control the physical body, and I need to use my mental power to control it to attack." Gray was surprised. "I didn't expect it to be like this. Why not just use undead magic? You don't know how." Lauren was speechless. "Master, I'm just an ordinary magician, not an encyclopedia. The world is so big and there are so many magics. How come I know them all? And now undead magic and so on are already out of date. Slaving the souls of the dead can certainly improve your strength quickly, but after all, it is some shameful magic. And soul magic has never just been used for enslavement. Those poor people don't understand the true power of soul magic at all. Unfortunately, I have never been exposed to real soul magic either. Otherwise I might not be defeated by you." Quote. Laura dismissed the so-called undead magic in her words. Gray heard that the so-called necromancy is just one of the lower branches of soul magic. Undead magic is something that is not popular in this world. After all, enslaving other people's bodies and souls can easily lead to public outrage, and the kind of magic that relies heavily on external forces does not improve oneself much. There are even some undead magic that will harm the magician himself, and only fools who have no other choice should learn it. The real bosses all learn soul magic and control powerful living creatures. A dead body, what living beings have potential? What? Do the undead have immortality? Stop making trouble, that thing is just for bluffing ordinary people, not to mention Laura, even Mia has a way to wipe out the soul. In addition, there is also light magic in this world that specifically restrains the undead and demons. The so-called immortality of most undead is as fragile and vulnerable as tissue paper in front of them. As for whether there are real undead creatures, only a master of soul magic can control it. It is no longer something that can be achieved by simply enslaving souls. Therefore, to sum up, the most widely circulated undead magic on the mainland are paper tigers and of no use. As for the legendary undead natural disaster, it has nothing to do with the undead mage. The legendary figures who cause the undead natural disaster are all soul magicians. From the fact that Laura would rather use her mental power to control the giant's corpse than use undead magic, we can see how rubbish the so-called undead magic is. Gray sighed. He also wanted to learn necromancy magic, but after hearing Laura's words, he lost interest. The right way is to wait until you have the opportunity to come into contact with soul magic in the future. Gray lowered his head and pointed at the giant's corpse and said, "What should I do with this corpse now? Can you still repair it?" At this moment, the giant's body had fallen apart, and his arms were completely broken. It looked like it was scrapped. Gray feels a little regretful now. I should have known better than to have a head-on confrontation. When this thing moves, the volume is terrifying. Gray estimated that even the top orc elders would be reduced to a pulp when faced with this big guy. Of course it needs to be repaired. Although it is a bit difficult, this is a giant body. Even if I can only exert 1/10 of his power, it will still be enough for me to defeat all warriors and knights below the ultimate warrior that I encounter. I just happened to meet you. When Laura said this, she couldn't help but have a look of heartache and confusion on her face. Her heartache is because of the giant bones. This time her helper was seriously injured. Even if he is repaired, his strength will probably decline. However, no matter what, he can still crush ordinary high-level warriors. She was curious because she still couldn't believe that Gray, a human, could actually go head-to-head with a giant. This is no longer something that can be explained by innate divine power. Her master is so mysterious. As she thought about it, Laura's gaze towards Gray became obsessed. Don't get me wrong, she was not obsessed with men, but with a research subject full of secrets. The master's power is so strong. If the master can lie down on the experimental table and let me study. Lauren couldn't help but tighten her legs. showed a slut smile, and even wanted to moan. The feeling of exploring unknown mysteries and then mastering new powers was so great that she could never resist that temptation. Then when she fantasized about studying Gray from his skin to his organs, and enjoying studying Gray's soul, her face suddenly turned pale. The severe pain from her soul made the woman hold her head and start rolling on the ground. Gray watched Laura writhing and screaming like a maggot, and he had no intention of helping. He just felt Laura's various forbidden thoughts about him. What does this woman do every day? Laura screamed for a long time before she felt the pain slowly dissipate. She looked pale, climbed up with a smile, and then silently began to collect the giant's bones. Gray looked at her for a while, not bothering to mention her disrespectful thoughts just now. After Laura finished cleaning up the giant's body, Gray took the 3 girls to rest in the house the orcs had just built out of wood. The orcs looked at Gray with a little more awe than the usual respect. They also saw the battle just now. That terrifying power made their souls tremble. Originally, they had already obeyed Gray's words. Now Gray's strength makes them even less able to resist. Some orcs even vaguely associate Gray with their leader. There's no way around it. During this period of time, all the actions of the Wolf clan and the Tauren clan were basically directed and mobilized by Gray. Moreover, the racial strength of the 2 races has improved significantly during this period of time. This has made the orcs accustomed to Gray's existence and status. Now Gray's powerful strength makes the orcs who are born to worship the strong more willing to obey Gray. Gray didn't know it yet, but he had unintentionally conquered the hearts of these orcs. He is currently planning with Laura to go underground and take out the autumn leaves of the Tree of Life below. Although Gray still doesn't know what the leaves of the Tree of Life do, Gray knows that that leaf must be a treasure. And Laura told him that the reason why she was looking for the Tree of Life was to study a flesh and blood magic that could strengthen the body. Upon hearing about flesh and blood magic, Gray couldn't help but frown. He vaguely remembered seeing this kind of magic in Anna's magic book. At that time, Gray felt that those who studied that stuff were all crazy. Unexpectedly, Laura was one of them. Looking at Gray's weird eyes, Laura said proudly, "My body transformation magic has begun to take effect. You should be able to feel that my body is far better than that of an ordinary magician. Hee. As long as I can get that piece of the leaves, with that huge vitality as support, can complete the last step, then hum." Laura's eyes were shining, and she was already thinking about a bright future. "When the time comes, I will go find those warriors and knights who have been against me, and I will hammer them to death with physical force." Laura proudly shared her research on flesh magic in front of the Gray trio. She is quite accomplished in this regard. The reason is that in the past few years, because her body was not strong enough, she suffered losses whether she was traveling, taking risks, or fighting. In order to be able to take risks as she pleases and make up for her physical shortcomings, Laura began to study flesh and blood magic a few years ago. I wonder if she is very talented in flesh and blood magic. This research really produced some results by her. Laura vividly described how she conducted experiments on human bodies, how she dissected the bodies of failed experimental subjects, and then how she discovered the cause of the failure. Of course, the people she used for human experiments were basically bandits or robbers. There are many such people on the mainland. A woman like her who is used to traveling alone has a very high probability of encountering bandits and robbers, so there is no one to do the experiment. She will go out for a trip and there will be enough people when she comes back. In the middle of the process, she also took out the imaging crystal and shared her research results on flesh and blood magic with Gray. But she had just played it for a few seconds when Kai turned pale, covered her mouth and ran out to vomit. Soon, Chuya couldn't stand it anymore. Laura dismissed the 2 running away women and curled her lips. "I can't even accept this. The seedlings of the academic school are too immature. Speaking of which, Master, what's going on with that wolf girl? She can actually use magic. It's really interesting. Can you study it for me?" Laura looked at Gray with a pleading look on her face. Gray pushed Laura's face away, and then wiped his hands in disgust. "By the way, how long has it been since this woman washed her face? Why is it so sticky? No, Chuya is mine. If you dare to attack her, I guarantee that your life will be worse than death." Gray firmly rejected Laura and gave her a serious warning. Laura curled her lips, feeling a little aggrieved. They were all Gray's people, so the difference in treatment was too big. Aren't they just bigger breasts? That thing is obviously a burden, and it's very inconvenient during battle, right? She looked down at her small hill and couldn't help but start to think. Her body modification magic could also make herself bigger, but it was completely unnecessary. It's just that she's really not used to it. I'm just curious. Laura came up again. Master, it was you who gave writing the power to have magic, right? How did you do it? When Laura saw that Gray didn't seem to be as disgusted and resistant to her as she thought, she couldn't help but reach out and poke Gray's arm. Gray ignored her and nodded. After I signed the contract with her, her body began to transform, and then she mastered some magical power. The reason why he admitted it directly was because Gray discovered that there was something about this female magician. You can tell by looking at her professionalism in dissecting the body. In addition, Laura is still very young, and she has already reached her current experience. The research and insights into magic are very distinctive. Such people can already be called research talents. In addition, she already had a certain understanding of her specialness just now, so there was no need to hide it. Tell her that maybe Laura can still see something, or maybe she can research something in the future. Laura's eyes lit up. I knew it was you. Everything was because of you. It's unbelievable. Master, tell me honestly, are you a human being? Don't misunderstand what I mean. Laura said thoughtfully. The kind of power in your body is simply not something humans can possess. Gray shrugged. For now, I should be human. Laura could only look at Gray lustfully for several times, then suppressed some of her inner thoughts, and then closed her mouth. She couldn't talk about this topic anymore, it would make her curious about Gray's body again. She began to explain to Gray her operation process of the photo crystal and her thoughts at the time. This was actually not because she was doing nothing, but because she saw that Gray was interested in these images. This is equivalent to Laura imparting Gray's own research experience and results. Just at this time, the video crystal was finished playing, and Laura then played a piece. Gray didn't stop him. He was interested in Laura's flesh and blood magic. It is already remarkable that a magician can strengthen and transform his body to be able to withstand attacks from a small part of his power. This is still in an unfinished state. Once Laura is really allowed to complete the research, she might really be able to possess the physical body of a high-level warrior instantly. Gray found this very interesting, and while watching, he discovered that although Laura's flesh magic research process looked bloody, in fact, her research was very scientific. That's right, science. Originally, Gray thought that it would be difficult for people in this world to develop on the path of science. But Laura changed his mind. Laura's flesh magic initially directly replaced the human body with the body of a beast. Graft the bodies of various creatures onto human bodies and see the effects. The result was naturally that all the experimental subjects died with their eyes open. Then she changed her mind. She felt that she didn't understand the human body and began to dissect the human body. During this stage, she gradually understood the functions of various organs in the human body, and then she believed that organs are what provide energy and power to the human body, so she began to replace organs for people. The process was quite cruel. After all, she didn't use anesthesia at the beginning, and the robbers were still alive. They were forced to undergo organ transplantation while they were jumping between consciousness and coma. Needless to say, no one was left alive. This time Laura felt a bottleneck. Until she thought about the differences between humans and beasts, and the organs of Warcraft might not match. She began the third phase, exchanging organs from strong humans for thin ones. The success rate of the operation at this stage was significantly improved, but she soon discovered that although the organs were functional, people would still die soon. She observed it for a long time, and then discovered that the transplanted organ could work at first, but would soon begin to weaken. For the first time, she realized that humans are not just made up of flesh, blood, organs and other visible things. She felt fainter breathing in the human body. She discovered cells. But she didn't know that what she found was a cell, she just called it a living unit. Human beings are formed from living units, whether it is skin, flesh, or hair. Then she realized that she had been wrong before. Since the basis of life is a more microscopic unit, she should adjust her research direction. Then she started to strengthen the life unit. Gray looked at the contents of the image crystal. My heart is full of emotions. He admired Laura even more. This is such a talent. And she really worked out stuff. After discovering the living unit, Laura began human experiments again. This time she no longer dissected and replaced organs. Instead, various liquid injections began to be used to strengthen the experimental subjects. After trying countless times, she discovered that some of the blood of monsters had a stimulating effect on human life units. This idea comes from the legend of dragon slayers. It is said that after bathing in dragon blood, the bodies of dragon slayer warriors will become indestructible. Laura immediately thought about whether other monsters had this effect. Simply bathing in blood has no effect. But if human blood was replaced with animal blood, she would feel some changes, but they were still very weak. She was puzzled, until one time, she accidentally discovered some obvious changes in the festering wound of a broken arm experimental subject. Then Laura discovered that pure animal blood was not effective, it required the cooperation of other mysterious powers. Gray estimated that the mysterious power Laura mentioned should be some kind of germ. The germs accidentally absorbed the energy in the animal blood and then stimulated human cells, or directly modified human cells, otherwise the human body would not have obvious abnormalities. In this way, after constant attempts, Laura prepared a virus stock solution that absorbed the power of animal blood, which could greatly strengthen the human body's physique after injection. But because it is essentially a certain kind of germ, it can cause great harm to the human body. This thing cannot be used by ordinary people, and it requires strong willpower to survive the transformation process. And there is a certain chance of failure. Laura survived successfully and discovered that this medicine consumes a lot of life energy. If Laura hadn't been a high-level magician, she would have been rich in various high-level magic materials, and in her early years, she had obtained a bottle of the top-notch life potion Dew of Life. After consuming the Dew of Life, she was able to truly complete her transformation. It took Gray more than a day to look through these photo crystals. Then he said, "Do you still have this life-changing original solution?" Laura shook her head. "No, I prepared one at that time." Gray continued to ask, "If you have enough materials, can you make it again?" Laura nodded. "Yes, but the injection I made was a low-quality raw liquid I made to increase the success rate. The materials were obtained from mid-level monsters, and the upper limit of this raw liquid is high-level monsters. I'm here this time. It's just to prepare for the second injection of high-quality original solution." Gray was relieved after hearing this. He himself was not interested in this kind of thing. But this thing is like a super soldier serum. As long as you can withstand it, you can create a super soldier. Gray thought for a while. What is the success rate of this thing? Laura chuckled and said confidently, "At present, among all the people who have injected the original liquid made of intermediate monsters, 2 people have succeeded, one is me, and the other is an experimental subject. After he succeeds, I dissected it and studied it, and then improved it a little before I used it myself." Gray, how many people have you injected with this intermediate level liquid? Gray continued to ask. Laura thought for a while. There are about 100 people, but Master, don't worry, I will optimize and improve it every time. The success rate is definitely more than 50%. Gray thought to himself, the magicians from your tower sect are really awesome. You deserve to be so awesome. There is a 50% chance that she would dare to do it herself. Gray coughed lightly. Is there any way to increase the success rate? Laura nodded. Of course, the success rate of the original liquid cultivated by using the blood of low-level monsters as raw materials and adding the flesh of low-level monsters is very good. Although I only conducted one experiment, 7 of the 10 people who were experimented at that time survived. The remaining 3 physiques are too weak and cannot even resist the low-level raw liquid. Gray's eyes suddenly brightened. How effective is that low-level liquid? Laura recalled for a moment, and then said, the effect is average, it cannot give people a warrior physique, but it is enough to double the physique of ordinary people. Gray nodded immediately. That's enough. If ordinary people's physiques are stronger, wouldn't the success rate be greater? Laura nodded. Yes, the stronger the physique, the more it can support the consumption during the transformation process. However, although I didn't pay attention to the low-level raw liquid, it should still consume people's vitality, so in theory it is necessary to replenish enough life energy. Okay, Gray nodded. This time it was really a huge harvest. The emergence of the physique fruit and this transformation liquid can directly give his soldiers a physique that far exceeds that of other engineers. Now that there is something like this that can strengthen a soldier's physique, of course he is also interested in the Tree of Life. The Tree of Life grows from the roots of the giant Tree of Life, and its life energy, even if not as good as the giant Tree of Life, is still very large. For Laura to transform from a physique comparable to that of an intermediate warrior to that of a senior warrior, she only needed one leaf from the Tree of Life. This is enough to see how powerful the Tree of Life is. It is a pity that the Tree of Life has only one leaf. Gray thought about it and felt that there was no need to compete with Laura for a leaf. That leaf was originally found by Laura, and Laura's effect on Gray was far greater than a leaf. Laura has become stronger, which is also a good thing for him. He can choose to use other things to make up for the soldier's loss of vitality. Anyway, as for the Tree of Life, just wait until he becomes stronger and then look for it. After making the decision, Gray said to Laura, "Since you are mine, I will naturally help you get that leaf, but before that, I hope you can at least clean yourself up." Gray pointed at her face, which was dirty and sticky. Laura was stunned for a moment after hearing Gray's words, and then pointed at herself in disbelief. "Master, you said you want to give me the leaves of the Tree of Life." Gray nodded. "You were the one who discovered it." Laura suddenly showed a grateful look. "Master, you are so kind." Gray slapped Laura away, who was trying to get close to him, and then said again, "Go away and clean yourself up." Laura ran out of the room happily. It wasn't until Laura left the room that Mia and Chuya walked in. The two of them started to check the bed in tacit understanding, smelling if there was any special smell in the air. "Gray, what are you doing?" "Mia," Chuya shook his head and said with a relaxed expression, "just taking a look to see if there is anything dirty." Gray shook his head. "I don't know what's going on in your heads, she and I didn't do anything." Mia and Chuya looked innocent and incomprehensible. "What are you talking about?" Gray was too lazy to explain to them. "You know it yourself." Mia curled her lips. "That crazy female from the High Tower sect is not a good person." Gray, "I'm so sorry, neither am I," Chuya said weakly. "My lord asked Miss Laura to clean herself up." Gray, "She's so dirty, her face is sticky." Mia, "Oh, you touched her face." Gray, "Sama and that woman really said no, but they didn't even tell me when they would be promoted to intermediate magicians." Gray, "Mia, it's not that I didn't tell you, I just forgot that I was promoted a few days ago." Mia, "Oh, really, that's really fast." Gray, changing the topic, "Mia, how about the Constitution tree?" "I haven't looked at that tree for a day, so I don't know what's going on with that tree." Mia, "It looks fine, it's full of vitality, and I feel like it's growing taller." Gray, "AJDD, has grown tall." Gray frowned. According to what Kara, the leader of the snake tribe, told him, the rhizome of the snake nut plant will rot quickly after the fruit is detached and will not bear a second fruit. Many top magic plants are like this. Because from the moment the seed germinates, all nutrients are needed to make the fruit develop perfectly. This structure determines that they are disposable consumables. The sapling that Gray planted yesterday was obviously different. The most obvious thing is that tree can talk. Only Gray can hear it. Gray felt there was something wrong with the tree yesterday, and now the problem has appeared. As a fruit tree, if you don't concentrate the nutrients together to produce fruit, why are you going to grow one? Gray stood up and walked out of the door. Under the confused eyes of Mia and Chuya, he drew his magic sword and walked towards the lonely sapling in the distance. "It's comfortable, the sun is so warm, and the energy around me is pretty good. No wonder that guy said it's suitable for growing here. Haha, I want to be the third tree on the continent." As soon as Gray got closer, he heard the sound of the sapling. Gray, what did he just hear? This little thing is actually going to become the third giant tree on the continent. No wonder this little thing doesn't bear fruit. It turns out that this guy has a goal of growing trees. Gray had no expression on his face as he inserted the long sword directly next to the sapling. The little sapling trembled in fright, and immediately began to greet Gray flatteringly. "Good morning, my great master." Gray didn't say anything, but took out a handkerchief from his arms, then pulled out his sword and started wiping it. After he finished wiping, he pointed the long sword at the branches of the sapling. "You tell me how to cut it, so that you won't die in pain." Little sapling. Master, I think if you don't chop me down, I won't be in pain. Gray shook his head. No, Gray, never raise waste. You don't even bear fruit. I want you to be useless. The sapling shivered in fear. Master, I didn't say it won't bear fruit. I just use the nutrients for growth temporarily. When I grow up, I will bear bigger and better fruits for you. Gray, how long does it take for you to grow up? Little sapling. I don't know, maybe 50 years. Gray raised his sword again. The little sapling quickly said, No, 5 years. Gray prepared to swing his sword. Little sapling. 1 year is enough, right? Gray shook his head. No, you must bear fruit for me now, or I will kill you. The little sapling felt aggrieved, but I want to become the third giant tree. Gray rolled his eyes. I've thought about it a lot. Do you know what the first 2 trees are? They are the symbol of an era. Little sapling. I know. The first tree is a giant tree that reaches the sky and reaches the earth. No one has ever reached its crown. Legend has it that there is a continent on its crown, and it is the hometown of the dragon clan. The second tree is the giant tree of life. It gave birth to elves, solved the disaster of the doomsday volcano, and brought the world vigorous life energy to start over. Gray was stunned for a moment when he heard what the little sapling was saying so clearly. I don't know these things, how the hell do you know? Gray, how do you know this? Little sapling. I didn't know it at first. When I was sleeping last night, I heard someone talking below, so I chatted with it all night. Gray looked at his feet. Then he looked at the ruins piled with stones not far away. If he remembered correctly, that place was once where the tree of life took root. Gray swallowed and asked, Did you ask who he was? Little sapling. I asked, and it said that its mother is the tree of life, and its grandma is the giant tree of life. It is ready to work hard to become a small tree of life. Little tree of life. Gray was sure that there must be more than one leaf from the tree of life down there. Judging from what the little sapling said, there must be several roots down there. Otherwise, where would the little tree of life come from? Gray's eyes lit up. Do you know where it is exactly? Gray retracted his sword, squatted in front of the sapling and said. Surprise, huge surprise. He didn't expect that he would have news about the tree of life so soon. No, it should be said to be a small tree of life. Forget it, it doesn't matter. Even if it's a small tree of life, it's of the same lineage as the giant tree of life. With the word, life, it can already reflect that it is not simple. Little sapling. No, we just met. Gray. What happened when we just met? Friends are like this, please ask. The little sapling has no choice but to go to heaven with the little tree of life. After a while, it spoke to Gray. Master, it said it didn't know where it was just dark around, and it said it was a little hot. Gray. Okay, even though he didn't ask for the specific location, Gray at least knew that there was a small tree of life under his feet. What is luck? The snake people have been here for 100 years and haven't found anything. He had already gained something within a few days of his arrival. Suddenly, Gray was very pleased with the little saplings. Gray waved his hand. Forget it, what did you talk to it about? Little sapling. We talked about everything, including his grandma and his mother, mainly his mother, and then the dead egg in the magma below. Gray. Wait a minute, what the hell? Little sapling. I don't know either. It said there was an egg underneath. It originally had some vitality, but for some reason, its vitality has become weaker and weaker over the years. Now it's almost a dead egg. Gray raised his eyebrows when he heard this. Are there any monsters or something down there? Little sapling. No, there is only one egg underneath. Before the elves who were here left, they left a leaf for the egg, hoping that it could maintain the vitality of the egg. But it doesn't seem to work, the egg seems to be dead now. Quote. Gray understood. He asked why there were leaves under the ground. It turned out that someone left it behind on purpose. So how long has the egg been here? Gray had asked Laura before. The elves lived here about 1,800 years ago. As for why there are still traces of the tree of life taking root here after 1,800 years, Gray doesn't understand. Maybe it was during these 100 years that the snake tribe reconnected the underground veins after discovering this place. After all, those guys are still very obsessed with warm places. 1800 years ago, that egg was here. What kind of egg is it? Let the elves leave the leaves of the tree of life. Laura said that the magma below is weird, probably because of it. Gray suddenly became very interested in the situation below. But it's not the time to go down yet. From yesterday to today, he has been watching Laura's flesh magic research process. Now he wanted to have a good sleep. Let Laura take a break by the way. She has been underground for a long time. Gray had to complain about Kara. As a snake elder, she didn't even notice that there was a human magician under her tribe. Moreover, this is not the first time Laura has come, and the snake people are not aware of it at all. Gray really didn't know if he should praise Laura for her strong concealment ability or if he should say that the snake people were too vigilant. Gray stood up and took 2 steps under the complicated eyes of Mi and Chuya. Gray, why do you look at me with sympathy? Mia sighed. It's okay, Master Gray, no matter what you become, I will always be with you. Chuya also said quickly. Master Gray, I will take care of you for the rest of my life. Gray, I said, you didn't think I was out of my mind just because you saw me talking to a tree, right? The expressions of sympathy and pity in Mia and Chuya's eyes became even stronger. They had just seen Gray talking to a sapling for a long time, and his expression was extremely rich, sometimes indifferent, sometimes excited, and sometimes happy. In this case, no one would think Gray is normal. Gray, if I said I really heard it speak, would you think I was crazy? Mia looked serious. No, you just see the world differently from us. You are not crazy. Chuya nodded. Master Gray, just be yourself. Gray, what should I do? I can't explain it clearly. Gray sighed and didn't plan to explain any more. Time will tell everything. Soon, Laura cleaned her body and appeared in front of everyone in clean and tidy clothes. Gray looked at the purple-haired beauty in front of him and fell into deep thought. He didn't understand. Could it be that beautiful women didn't care about personal hygiene in private? Laura's long hair was wet with a trace of moisture, and her big purple eyes stared at Gray blinkingly. 0 asterisk. Master, how are you doing? Do I look good? Laura spun in a circle in front of Gray, her long skirt fluttering under the spin, revealing a small section of her fair and slender legs. The faint scent of Laura's perfume came from the slight breeze. Laura looks like a dancing elf in the sunshine. Gray looked at the woman's bright smile and unknowingly remembered the scene of her laughing at the subjects in the recording crystal. Gray immediately lost his temper. He yawned. Laura, go choose a room and have a good rest for a day. Let's go down and take a look tomorrow. After hearing this, Laura waved in front of Gray again without giving up. Gray looked at her. Is something wrong? Laura. No. Gray glanced at her and then said, you're fine, why don't you rest? Laura. Oh, this master is really difficult to serve. Laura quickly chose a wooden house and started to rest. She was really tired, so after entering the room, she quickly fell asleep. Gray, on the other hand, practiced for a while before going to bed. Mia and Chuya also returned to a wooden house each. In the dead of night, a certain cabin slowly opened. The figure came out of the room silently and quickly headed towards Gray's room. Halfway through, she stopped. Mia walked out of the shadows, her face calm. Chuya, what are you doing up so late at night? Chuya showed a decent and gentle smile. I'm going to see how Mr. Gray is sleeping. Mia sneered. No need to look, he slept well. Chuya shook his head. No, I am Master Gray's personal maid, I have to pay attention to the situation of the gods at all times. She said she was going to keep walking forward. Mia didn't stop her after hearing this, but followed her to Gray's door. Miss Mia, Master Gray is a man after all. As a woman, you'd better not come in the middle of the night. Chuya turned around and said with a smile. Mia didn't move. It doesn't matter. Lady Anna asked me to take more care of Lady Gray. I also want to see how Gray is resting. Chuya and Mia looked at each other. After a while, Chuya turned around and opened the door and walked in. Mia followed closely behind. Wait until both of them entered Gray's house. In another cabin not far away, Laura stuck her head out. Bah! They're all little fools. Soon, the two of them walked out together again. Obviously, because of mutual restraint, both of them were dissatisfied with the result tonight, but they did not want the other to have the result. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.